Have you ever wondered why your friends seem to have more friends than you? It's not just your imagination, it's a paradox that challenges our understanding of social networks and human connections. Welcome to the friendship paradox, where the average number of friends your friends have is likely higher than your own friend count. This counterintuitive phenomenon reveals the hidden complexities of our social world, offering insights into popularity, social anxiety, and the very fabric of human relationships. As we explore this paradox, prepare to question your place in the social hierarchy and uncover the mathematical truths behind your friendships. Picture a river's edge, where the boundary between land and water blurs into a hazy line of uncertainty. Here, a parent stands frozen, their heart pounding with a rhythm that echoes the very paradox they face. The air is thick with tension, and time seems to stretch like an elastic band ready to snap. This is no ordinary day by the water. This is the moment when logic itself bends and twists, challenging our very understanding of reality. A crocodile, ancient and cunning, has emerged from the murky depths with an offer that defies reason. In its powerful jaws, it holds the most precious treasure a parent could imagine, their child. But this is no simple hostage situation. The reptile, with eyes gleaming with an intelligence that seems almost supernatural, proposes a deal that will make even the most rational mind spin. "I will return your child," the crocodile hisses, its voice a rasp that seems to carry the weight of countless philosophical debates. "If you can correctly predict whether I will return the child or not." The parent's mind races, trying to untangle the web of possibilities and consequences that unfold before them like a complex mathematical equation. Consider the paradox that now presents itself. If the parent predicts that the crocodile will return the child, what happens? The crocodile, bound by its own rules, would then be compelled not to return the child, for that would make the parent's prediction incorrect. But if the crocodile doesn't return the child, then it has broken its own promise, rendering the entire premise of the deal null and void. Now let's explore the alternative. What if the parent predicts that the crocodile won't return the child? In this case, for the prediction to be correct, the crocodile must return the child. But by doing so, it would make the parent's prediction false, once again violating the terms of its own proposition. As we delve deeper into this conundrum, we begin to see the true nature of self-referential statements and their logical implications. The crocodile paradox, as it has come to be known, is not merely a cruel game played by a reptilian trickster. It is a window into the very fabric of language and logic, revealing the cracks and fissures in our ability to describe and understand reality. The parent, caught in this impossible situation, might try to navigate the treacherous waters of prediction and consequence. They might attempt to outsmart the crocodile to find some loophole in its twisted logic, but with each attempt they only sink deeper into the quicksand of paradox. Perhaps they could say, "You will not return my child." But even this seemingly clever response leads us back to the original problem. If the crocodile returns the child, the prediction is false, and if it doesn't, the prediction is true, but the child remains unreturned. The circular nature of this paradox becomes apparent, spinning endlessly like a cosmic merry-go-round of logic. As we contemplate this scenario, we must ask ourselves, how can one navigate a situation where every choice seems to lead to contradiction? Is there a resolution that satisfies both the conditions set by the crocodile and the desperate desire of the parent to save their child? The crocodile paradox serves as a stark reminder of the limits of language and logic in capturing the full complexity of reality. It challenges our assumptions about truth, prediction, and the nature of statements that refer to themselves. In doing so, it reveals a fundamental truth about human cognition and the tools we use to make sense of the world around us. Consider how this paradox might apply to other areas of life and thought. In the realm of law, for instance, we encounter similar logical conundrums. A law that states, "This law is unenforceable," creates a paradox akin to the crocodile's deal. If we enforce it, we violate its content. If we don't enforce it, we are enforcing it by respecting its statement. Or think about the nature of promises and predictions in our everyday lives. When we make a promise about our future actions, are we not, in some sense, engaging in a similar act of self-reference? We are attempting to bind our future selves to a present statement, creating a potential for paradox if circumstances change or our understanding of the situation evolves. The crocodile paradox also invites us to reflect on the nature of truth itself. In a world where statements can contradict themselves by their very utterance, what can we truly know with certainty? This question has plagued philosophers for millennia, from the ancient Greeks to modern logicians. As we grapple with these ideas, we begin to see how paradoxes shape our understanding of truth and deception. They are not mere logical puzzles or word games, but profound challenges to our most basic assumptions about reality and our ability to describe it. 3. The social mirror maze. As we step away from the twisting rivers of logic, we find ourselves in a new realm of paradox, one that mirrors our social world in unexpected ways. Imagine for a moment a vast network of human connections stretching out before you, each person a node, each relationship a thread in an intricate tapestry of social bonds. But as you trace these patterns, you begin to notice something odd, a discrepancy that defies intuition and unveils a hidden truth about the nature of our friendships. Have you ever felt like everyone around you seems more popular, more connected, more socially adept? What if this weren't just a feeling, but a mathematical reality? Welcome to the perplexing realm of the friendship paradox, whereby the cruel mathematics of averages, you are destined to be less popular than your friends. Consider a social network where every connection is mapped out before you. You might assume that your circle of friends would have, on average, about the same number of connections as you do. After all, isn't that how averages work? But here's where the paradox emerges. On average, your friends are likely to have more friends than you do. This counterintuitive truth stems from the structure of social networks themselves. In any given network, there are always individuals who act as hubs, people with an unusually high number of connections. These social butterflies skew the average, pulling it upward. When you consider your friends, you're more likely to include these highly connected individuals in your circle. But when they consider their friends, they're including both you and their many other connections, resulting in a higher average. The mathematics behind this phenomenon is both elegant and surprising. It's not just about averages, but about the distribution of connections across the network. In most social networks, the number of connections follows what's known as a power law distribution. This means that while most people have a moderate number of connections, a small number of individuals have an extraordinarily high number. These outliers have a disproportionate effect on the network structure and on our perception of it. But what does this mean for our understanding of social status and self-worth? In a world where we're constantly comparing ourselves to others, the friendship paradox can lead to a skewed perception of our own social standing. It's easy to look at our friends' seemingly bustling social lives and feel inadequate by comparison. Yet mathematically, this feeling of inadequacy is built into the very structure of our social networks. This paradox takes on new dimensions in the age of social media. As we scroll through carefully curated feeds of our friends' lives, we're not just seeing a biased sample of their experiences, we're seeing a biased sample of their social connections as well. The friends we see most often online are likely to be those who are most active, most connected, and most visible. This amplifies the effect of the friendship paradox, potentially leading to even greater feelings of social inadequacy. Yet understanding this paradox can be liberating. It reminds us that our perception of others' social lives is inherently skewed. The seemingly universal popularity of others is, in part, an illusion created by the structure of our social networks. This knowledge can help us approach our own social connections with more realistic expectations and greater self-compassion. The implications of the friendship paradox extend far beyond our personal social lives. Researchers have found fascinating applications for this concept in fields as diverse as epidemiology and information science. In studying the spread of diseases, for instance, scientists have discovered that monitoring the friends of randomly selected individuals can provide earlier warning of outbreaks than monitoring random individuals themselves. This is because these friends are more likely to be central nodes in the social network and thus more likely to be exposed to and spread diseases early in an outbreak. Similarly, in the realm of information spread, understanding the friendship paradox can help us trace how ideas, trends, and even misinformation propagate through social networks. The highly connected individuals who contribute to this paradox often serve as key influencers, shaping the flow of information across the network. As we contemplate the friendship paradox, we might ask ourselves, how might understanding this phenomenon change our view of social relationships? Perhaps it encourages us to value quality over quantity in our friendships, recognizing that the number of connections we have is less important than the depth and meaning of those connections. It might also prompt us to be more mindful of the diverse experiences within our social circles, acknowledging that what we see of others' lives is often just the tip of the iceberg. Moreover, this paradox invites us to reflect on the nature of influence and centrality in social networks. It reminds us that our perception of social dynamics is often filtered through the lens of those who are most visible and connected. This awareness can help us seek out and value diverse perspectives, including those from less central nodes in our social networks. 4. The tolerance tightrope. As we venture beyond the intricacies of social networks, we encounter a philosophical tightrope that has perplexed thinkers for decades. Picture a society that prides itself on unwavering tolerance, where every belief and ideology is welcomed with open arms. Now consider this unsettling question: could such absolute tolerance ultimately lead to its own destruction? This conundrum, known as the tolerance paradox, was first introduced by philosopher Karl Popper in his 1945 book, The Open Society and Its Enemies. Popper's insight challenges our fundamental understanding of what it means to be truly tolerant. He posited that unlimited tolerance might, paradoxically, result in the erosion of tolerance itself. Imagine a society where every voice, no matter how extreme or divisive, is given equal platform and protection. In this hypothetical realm of absolute tolerance, what happens when ideologies emerge that seek to dismantle the very foundations of tolerance? This is not merely a thought experiment. History provides us with sobering examples of this paradox in action. In the early 20th century, many democratic nations found themselves grappling with this very dilemma. They extended their tolerance to emerging authoritarian movements, believing that these ideologies could coexist within the framework of democratic values. However, this well-intentioned tolerance allowed intolerant philosophies to take root and grow. The most chilling example of this can be seen in the rise of Nazi Germany, where an initially tolerant democratic system was systematically dismantled from within by an ideology fundamentally opposed to tolerance and pluralism. As we contemplate this historical lesson, we must ask ourselves, where do we draw the line? At what point does a tolerant society have the right, or perhaps the obligation, to become intolerant of certain ideas? Popper's solution to this paradox suggests that while a society should indeed allow for diverse opinions, It must also reserve the right to be intolerant toward ideologies that threaten the very existence of tolerance. This proposition, however, opens up a Pandora's box of new questions and challenges. How do we determine which ideologies pose a genuine threat to tolerance? Who gets to make these decisions? The subjective nature of defining intolerance raises concerns about potential abuses of power. Critics of Popper's argument often highlight the risk that those in authority might exploit this concept, labeling dissenting opinions as intolerant simply to suppress opposition. Moreover, the tolerance paradox forces us to confront difficult questions about freedom of speech, a cornerstone of many democratic societies. Should the protective umbrella of free speech extend to cover hate speech or ideologies that advocate for the suppression of others' freedoms? This debate remains contentious, with passionate arguments on both sides. Some advocate for absolute free expression, arguing that any restriction is a slippery slope toward authoritarianism. Others contend that certain limitations are necessary to protect vulnerable groups and preserve the overall fabric of a tolerant society. As we grapple with these weighty questions, it's crucial to recognize that intolerance often stems from deeper psychological roots. Fear, ignorance, and a sense of threat can all contribute to intolerant attitudes. This understanding suggests that perhaps the solution lies not just in legal or policy-based approaches, but in addressing these underlying causes. Education, dialogue, and fostering empathy might prove more effective in combating intolerance than mere suppression of ideas. In our current era of polarized political discourse and the rapid spread of information and misinformation through social media, the tolerance paradox takes on renewed significance. The digital age has amplified voices from all corners of the ideological spectrum, making the balancing act between fostering open dialogue and protecting the principles of tolerance more challenging than ever. Consider the complexities faced by social media platforms as they attempt to moderate content. When should a post be removed? When does an opinion cross the line from controversial to harmful? These decisions made by private companies have far-reaching implications for public discourse and the shape of our shared digital spaces. The tolerance paradox teaches us that true tolerance is not a passive state, but an active engagement that requires constant vigilance and reflection. It challenges us to continually reassess the boundaries of what we consider acceptable in our societies. This dynamic process demands that we remain open to diverse perspectives while also being prepared to defend the core principles that allow for coexistence in a pluralistic world. As we navigate this paradoxical landscape, we must remember that tolerance itself is a value born from a desire for social harmony and mutual respect. The goal is not to achieve a perfect, conflict-free society. Such a thing likely doesn't exist. Rather, the aim is to create a framework where differences can coexist without threatening the fundamental rights and dignities of others. 5. The paralysis of plenty. As we emerge from the labyrinth of social harmony, we find ourselves standing at the precipice of abundance, a vista that stretches endlessly before us. Imagine a world where every desire can be fulfilled, every whim catered to, and every choice imaginable lies at your fingertips. This cornucopia of options, this endless buffet of possibilities, surely it must be the pinnacle of human achievement, the very essence of freedom itself. And yet, as we gaze upon this landscape of limitless choice, a curious sensation begins to take hold. A creeping unease, a subtle anxiety that whispers in the back of our minds. What if this abundance is not a blessing, but a curse? Welcome to the paradox of choice, a phenomenon that challenges our fundamental assumptions about freedom, satisfaction, and the nature of decision-making itself. Popularized by psychologist Barry Schwartz, this paradox suggests that while having options is generally perceived as beneficial, an overabundance of choices can lead to a peculiar form of paralysis. It's as if the weight of possibility itself becomes a burden, crushing our ability to make decisions with the very vastness of its potential. Consider for a moment the last time you stood before a wall of television sets in an electronics store, each screen a window into a world of entertainment. As your eyes darted from one display to another, each boasting its unique features and promises of superior viewing experiences, did you feel a sense of excitement or a creeping dread? This scenario, mundane as it may seem, encapsulates the essence of the paradox of choice. With each additional option, the mental effort required to make a decision increases exponentially, leading to what Schwartz calls decision fatigue. This fatigue is not merely a matter of mental exhaustion. It's a profound state where the quality of our decisions begins to deteriorate, where the very act of choosing becomes so daunting that we may opt to make no choice at all. Imagine standing at a crossroads where every path promises adventure, opportunity, and fulfillment. Yet instead of embarking on a journey, we find ourselves rooted to the spot, paralyzed by the fear that whichever path we choose, we might be missing out on something even better just around the corner. This phenomenon extends far beyond the realm of consumer goods. In the tapestry of modern life, we find threads of the paradox of choice woven into the very fabric of our existence. From career paths to relationships, from lifestyle choices to moral dilemmas, the abundance of options that once seemed liberating now threatens to overwhelm us. Each decision becomes a high-stakes gamble, fraught with the potential for regret and second-guessing. The concept of post-decision regret looms large in this paradoxical landscape. Even when we manage to make a choice, the ghosts of unchosen alternatives haunt us. We find ourselves caught in a web of what-ifs, our satisfaction with our decisions eroded by the knowledge of all the paths not taken. This regret is particularly potent in an age where social media constantly bombards us with glimpses of lives we could have lived, experiences we could have had, and choices we could have made. Here we encounter a modern manifestation of this paradox, the phenomenon known as FOMO, or fear of missing out. In a world where every moment seems filled with infinite possibilities, we are gripped by an anxious compulsion to be everywhere, do everything, and experience it all. Yet in our frantic attempts to seize every opportunity, we often find ourselves unable to fully appreciate any single experience. The abundance of choice becomes a thief, stealing the joy from the very moments we so desperately sought to capture. But is there a way to navigate this maze of choice without sacrificing the autonomy and freedom that options provide? Schwartz suggests several strategies for combating the paralysis of plenty. One approach is to become a satisficer rather than a maximizer. Instead of endlessly seeking the perfect option, we can set criteria for what is good enough and choose the first option that meets those standards. This approach not only simplifies decision-making, but also tends to lead to greater satisfaction with our choices. Another strategy involves deliberately limiting our options. By setting boundaries on the number of choices we consider, we can reduce the cognitive load of decision-making and increase our likelihood of actually making a choice. This might seem counterintuitive in a culture that celebrates unlimited options, but studies have shown that consumers presented with a smaller array of options are more likely to make a purchase and feel satisfied with their decision than those faced with an overwhelming variety. The key to finding contentment in a world of endless possibilities may lie in shifting our focus from the quantity of options to the quality of our engagement with the choices we do make. By practicing gratitude for the decisions we've made and fully immersing ourselves in the experiences they bring, we can counteract the nagging sense of missed opportunities that fuels post-decision regret. 6. The diamond in the water. As we shift our focus from the abundance of choices to the essence of value itself, we encounter a paradox that challenges our very understanding of worth. Imagine holding in one hand a sparkling diamond and in the other a simple glass of water. In a world of plenty, this juxtaposition might seem unremarkable. But consider a scenario where you find yourself stranded in a vast, unforgiving desert. Suddenly, the value of these two items transforms dramatically, revealing a fundamental tension in how we assign worth to the world around us. This thought experiment unveils the diamond water paradox, a concept that has perplexed economists and philosophers for centuries. At its core, this paradox confronts us with a startling realization. Water, the very essence of life, often costs us little or nothing, while diamonds, mere baubles in the grand scheme of survival, command astronomical prices. How can we reconcile this apparent contradiction? The answer lies in the complex interplay between utility, scarcity, and the often irrational nature of human desire. Consider the inherent value of water. It flows through our bodies, sustains our crops, and forms the very foundation of life on Earth. Without it, our existence would be impossible. Yet in many parts of the world, we treat this precious resource as if it were limitless, allowing it to pour freely from our taps with little thought to its true worth. The abundance of water in certain regions has led to a dangerous complacency, masking its vital importance behind a veil of perceived plenty. Diamonds, on the other hand, hold no intrinsic value for our survival. We cannot eat them, drink them, or use them to nourish our crops. Their worth is largely a construct of human society, built upon notions of rarity, beauty, and status. The glittering facets of a diamond reflect not just light, but our own desires and aspirations, amplified by centuries of cultural conditioning and clever marketing. To unravel this paradox, we must delve into the economic concepts of utility and marginal value. Utility, in economic terms, refers to the satisfaction or benefit derived from consuming a good or service. Water clearly has enormous utility, as it is indispensable for life. However, the concept of marginal utility helps explain why its price remains low in many areas. Each additional unit of water we consume provides less additional satisfaction than the previous one. The first glass of water quenches our thirst, the second refreshes us further, but by the 10th glass we gain little additional benefit. Contrast this with diamonds, where scarcity plays a crucial role. The limited supply of these gems, coupled with their perceived value and the difficulty of obtaining them, drives their price to dizzying heights. Each additional diamond one acquires might still provide significant marginal utility, especially in terms of status or investment value. The diamond water paradox forces us to confront the often misaligned relationship between price and true value. It reveals how our economic systems, driven by supply and demand, can sometimes prioritize luxury over necessity. This misalignment becomes starkly apparent when we consider regions facing severe water scarcity. In these areas, the price of water can skyrocket, reflecting its true value as a life-sustaining resource. Suddenly, the paradox shifts, and water becomes the precious commodity, far outstripping the value of any diamond. This paradox invites us to reflect on our societal values and priorities. How do we reconcile the low cost of essential resources with the high prices commanded by luxury goods? The answer lies partly in understanding the contextual nature of value. A glass of water holds little worth when we're surrounded by abundance, but it becomes priceless when we're parched in a desert. Similarly, a diamond's value fluctuates based on cultural norms, economic conditions, and individual perspectives. The implications of the diamond water paradox extend far beyond academic discourse. They challenge us to reconsider our approach to resource allocation and conservation on a global scale. As climate change alters weather patterns and affects water availability worldwide, we may soon find ourselves re-evaluating the true worth of this essential resource. Will future generations look back at our current water usage with the same bewilderment with which we now regard historical trades of land for strings of beads? Moreover, this paradox prompts us to question the very foundations of our economic systems. Are our markets truly efficient if they fail to accurately reflect the fundamental value of life-sustaining resources? How might we restructure our economies to better align price with genuine utility and long-term sustainability? As we ponder these questions, we begin to see how resolving the diamond water paradox could revolutionize our approach to global resources. Imagine a world where the price of goods and services accurately reflected their true value to human survival and planetary health. In such a system, water might be treated with the reverence it deserves, while luxury items could be seen in a new light. Beautiful, certainly, but no longer carrying an inflated sense of worth. 7. The savings that impoverish. As we venture deeper into the labyrinth of economic paradoxes, we encounter a phenomenon that challenges our fundamental beliefs about financial responsibility and collective well-being. Picture a world where every citizen, inspired by frugality, decides to save more of their income. A responsible choice, surely. Yet in this scenario, the economy begins to falter. How can prudent individual actions lead to collective hardship? Welcome to the perplexing realm of the paradox of thrift, where individual wisdom can lead to collective woe. Imagine a society where a wave of financial prudence sweeps across the land. Households, motivated by a desire for security, begin to tuck away more of their earnings. Banks swell with deposits and personal savings accounts grow fat. On the surface, this appears to be a portrait of fiscal responsibility, a nation of ant-like savers preparing for winter. But as we zoom out, we see a different picture emerging, one of economic contraction and mounting hardship. The paradox of thrift, a concept popularized by the renowned economist John Maynard Keynes, illuminates the intricate web of interdependencies that form the backbone of our economic systems. It suggests that while saving may be virtuous for an individual, when practiced en masse, it can lead to economic downturns. This counterintuitive notion challenges our understanding of financial health and forces us to reconsider the relationship between personal and collective prosperity. To understand this paradox, we must first grasp the concept of aggregate demand, the total demand for goods and services within an economy. When individuals save more, they inevitably spend less. This reduction in spending ripples through the economy like a stone dropped in a still pond. Businesses, faced with decreased demand for their products, may cut back on production. This, in turn, can lead to layoffs, further reducing the spending power of the population. The circular flow of income, once a robust current, begins to slow to a trickle. Consider the anatomy of this economic contraction. As savings increase, consumer spending decreases. This leads to a reduction in business revenue, potentially forcing companies to reduce their workforce. Unemployment rises, further decreasing consumer spending power. This cycle continues, potentially spiraling into a recession. The very act of saving, intended to provide security, has paradoxically created insecurity on a grand scale. This paradox challenges our individual notions of financial responsibility. We are taught from a young age that saving is virtuous, a cornerstone of financial health. Yet, the paradox of thrift suggests that there can be too much of a good thing. It forces us to confront the tension between personal financial security and collective economic well-being. How do we reconcile these seemingly conflicting imperatives? To truly appreciate the impact of this paradox, we must look to history. During the Great Depression, Keynes argued that the collective urge to save exacerbated the economic crisis. As people saved more, they spent less, leading to a decrease in demand for goods and services. This, in turn, caused businesses to cut back on production and lay off workers, deepening the economic downturn. The very actions that individuals took to protect themselves financially contributed to the overall economic malaise. More recently, Japan's experience in the 1990s provides another stark illustration of the paradox of thrift in action. Following the collapse of an asset price bubble, Japanese households significantly increased their savings rates. This led to a prolonged period of economic stagnation known as the lost decade. Despite having one of the highest savings rates in the world, Japan struggled with deflation and sluggish economic growth, demonstrating how excessive saving can lead to economic paralysis. These historical examples underscore the delicate balance required between saving and spending to maintain economic health. While savings are necessary for long-term investment and financial stability, excessive saving during economic downturns can lead to stagnation. This balance is not unlike the delicate ecosystem of a forest, where too much of one element can throw the entire system out of equilibrium. So how do we navigate this paradoxical terrain? How can we reconcile the need for personal financial security with the imperative of collective economic well-being? The answer lies in understanding the rhythms of economic cycles and the role of various economic actors. During times of economic downturn, Keynes argued, what the economy needs is not more saving, but more spending. He believed that government intervention through public spending could stimulate demand and help revive the economy. This approach, known as Keynesian economics, suggests that the government can act as a counterbalance to excessive private sector saving during recessions. However, this solution brings its own set of challenges and debates. How much government intervention is appropriate? How do we ensure that such interventions don't create long-term economic distortions? These questions continue to be hotly debated among economists and policymakers, highlighting the complex nature of economic management. 8. The peace that breeds conflict. As we step away from economic complexities, let us turn our gaze to an equally perplexing realm of human affairs. Picture two nations, each armed with devastating weapons, locked in an uneasy truce. The very instruments designed to prevent catastrophe inadvertently breed conflict. How can the promise of peace lead to war? This is the essence of the stability-instability paradox, a concept that emerged during the Cold War and continues to shape our understanding of international relations. Imagine a world where the threat of total annihilation creates a veneer of stability. The United States and the Soviet Union, armed with nuclear arsenals capable of destroying the planet many times over, faced each other across an ideological chasm. The doctrine of mutually assured destruction, MAD, ensured that neither side would risk direct confrontation. Yet, beneath this surface of apparent calm, a different kind of turmoil brewed. The paradox reveals itself in the behavior of these superpowers. While they avoided direct conflict, they engaged in numerous proxy wars, supporting opposing sides in conflicts across the globe. Vietnam and Afghanistan became battlegrounds where American and Soviet interests clashed indirectly. The overarching threat of nuclear war, rather than preventing conflict altogether, simply shifted its nature and location. Consider the incentives created by a stable nuclear deterrent. When major powers feel secure from full-scale war, they may perceive lower risks in engaging in limited aggression. It's as if the fear of falling from a great height leads one to take more risks on lower ground. This perception of reduced risk can lead to increased regional conflicts, where the stakes seem lower, but the human cost remains tragically high. In contemporary geopolitics, the stability-instability paradox continues to manifest, particularly in regions with nuclear-armed states. Consider the relationship between India and Pakistan, two nations with a history of tension and conflict. Despite both possessing nuclear weapons, or perhaps because of it, skirmishes and limited engagements persist along their shared border. The looming threat of nuclear escalation creates a precarious balance, where smaller conflicts are seen as acceptable risks. The paradox extends beyond traditional warfare, seeping into the realm of cybersecurity. As nations and organizations build stronger digital defenses, they inadvertently create incentives for more sophisticated attacks. Hackers, faced with improved security measures, develop increasingly complex methods of intrusion. The very act of fortifying our digital borders can lead to an arms race in cyberspace, where stability in one area breeds instability in another. This phenomenon raises critical questions about the nature of security and power. Is true peace achievable through the threat of overwhelming force? Or does this approach merely create a facade of stability while nurturing the seeds of future conflicts? The stability-instability paradox challenges us to reconsider our assumptions about deterrence and its long-term consequences. Experts argue that genuine security requires more than just the ability to inflict unacceptable damage on an adversary. It necessitates understanding, adaptability, and a willingness to engage with uncertainty. Stability, in this view, is not a static state achieved through force alone, but a dynamic process requiring constant effort and cooperation. Consider the psychological factors at play. Leaders of nuclear-armed nations may feel emboldened to take risks in limited conflicts, believing that the ultimate deterrent will prevent escalation to full-scale war. This confidence can lead to miscalculations, where small actions compound and tensions rise unexpectedly. The Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962 serves as a stark reminder of how quickly events can spiral towards catastrophe, even when both sides ostensibly seek to avoid it. The paradox also manifests in the realm of international diplomacy. Nations may engage in brinkmanship, pushing the boundaries of acceptable behavior while relying on the mutual fear of escalation to prevent outright war. This dance on the edge of conflict creates a constant state of tension, where the line between stability and chaos becomes increasingly blurred. As we contemplate the stability-instability paradox, we must ask ourselves, how can nations navigate the delicate balance between deterrence and cooperation? Is there a way to harness the stabilizing effects of mutual vulnerability without falling into the trap of increased low-level conflict? Perhaps the answer lies in redefining our concept of security. Instead of relying solely on the threat of retaliation, nations could focus on building robust systems of communication, transparency, and mutual understanding. By fostering a shared sense of responsibility for global stability, we might create a world where the paradox loses its power. Imagine a future where international relations are guided not by the fear of mutual destruction, but by the recognition of mutual interdependence. In this world, stability would arise not from the balance of terror, but from the strength of shared interests and common goals. 9. The pursuit that eludes. From the grand stage of international relations, we now turn inward to explore the landscape of human emotion. Picture a world where every decision you make is guided by a single goal: maximizing your own happiness. Now prepare to uncover why this seemingly perfect strategy might lead to profound dissatisfaction. Welcome to the perplexing realm of the hedonistic paradox. Imagine dedicating your entire existence to the pursuit of pleasure and the avoidance of pain. Every choice, every action, every moment focused on increasing your personal joy. It sounds like a recipe for boundless happiness, doesn't it? Yet, as we'll discover, this single-minded quest for bliss often leads to an unexpected destination, a deep well of discontent. The hedonistic paradox reveals a strange truth about the human experience. When we make pleasure our ultimate goal, it often eludes us, slipping through our fingers like grains of sand. This peculiar phenomenon suggests that the more intensely we focus on attaining happiness as an end in itself, the more difficult it becomes to grasp. But why does this occur? What hidden mechanisms are at play in our minds and our societies that turn our deepest desires against us? To unravel this mystery, we must first explore the philosophical perspectives on happiness that have shaped human thought for millennia. Ancient wisdom and modern psychology converge on a surprising insight. Happiness is often not a direct pursuit, but rather a byproduct of engaging in meaningful activities. Consider the words of Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist who famously stated, "Happiness cannot be pursued, it must ensue as a result of living a meaningful life." This profound observation challenges our instinctive approach to seeking joy, suggesting that true fulfillment lies not in the chase, but in the journey itself. But what of those fleeting moments of pleasure we do manage to capture? Surely they should accumulate into a lasting state of contentment, right? Here we encounter another perplexing aspect of human psychology, the hedonic treadmill. This concept explains why, as we achieve higher levels of happiness through pleasurable experiences, we quickly adapt to these new heights. Like a treadmill that speeds up as we run faster, our expectations and desires accelerate in tandem with our achievements. The result? A perpetual chase for an ever-receding horizon of satisfaction, leaving us breathless and unfulfilled. Think about the last time you attained something you thought would bring lasting happiness. Perhaps it was a promotion, a new relationship, or a long-awaited vacation. How long did that feeling of elation truly last? The hedonic treadmill suggests that our initial surge of joy quickly fades as we acclimate to our new circumstances, prompting us to seek even greater pleasures to recapture that fleeting high. But the paradox doesn't end there. In a cruel twist of irony, the very act of pursuing happiness can create pressure and anxiety that make it harder to relax and enjoy the present moment. This phenomenon, known as the paradoxical effect, turns our quest for joy into a self-defeating cycle. The more desperately we grasp at happiness, the more it seems to slip away, leaving us frustrated and disheartened. To further complicate matters, our approach to happiness is not universal. Cultural differences play a significant role in how we perceive and pursue contentment. Consider the stark contrast between collectivist and individualistic societies. In many collectivist cultures, happiness is often rooted in community bonds and fulfilling one's social obligations. The joy of the individual is intrinsically linked to the well-being of the group. On the other hand, individualistic societies tend to emphasize personal achievement and self-fulfillment as pathways to happiness. These differing values profoundly influence not only how we seek happiness, but also how we experience and express it. So, in the face of this paradox, how can we find true contentment? The answer may lie in shifting our focus from the direct pursuit of happiness to the creation of a life rich with meaning, connection, and purpose. Instead of chasing fleeting pleasures, we might find greater fulfillment in engaging with the world around us, nurturing relationships, and contributing to causes greater than ourselves. Consider the joy that often arises unexpectedly when we're fully immersed in a hobby, lost in conversation with a loved one, or working towards a goal we're passionate about. These moments of genuine happiness tend to sneak up on us when we're not actively seeking them, illustrating the indirect nature of true contentment. Moreover, the hedonistic paradox invites us to embrace the full spectrum of human emotions. Happiness is just one color in the vibrant palette of our emotional lives. By accepting and valuing all our feelings, including sadness, anger, and even boredom, we may paradoxically find ourselves more at peace and, yes, ultimately happier. 10. The heap of uncertainty. As we leave behind the intricate tapestry of human emotions, we find ourselves on the shores of a different kind of uncertainty, one that challenges the very foundations of how we categorize the world around us. Picture yourself on a pristine beach, the grains of sand shifting beneath your feet. You bend down and pick up a single grain, then another and another. At what precise moment does this collection transform from a mere handful into a heap? This deceptively simple question unveils the Sorites paradox, a philosophical conundrum that has perplexed minds for centuries and continues to challenge our understanding of language, logic, and reality itself. The Sorites paradox, deriving its name from the Greek word soros, meaning heap, presents us with a fundamental quandary about vague predicates. It forces us to confront the ambiguity inherent in our language and reasoning. As we add grain after grain to our collection, we find ourselves trapped in a logical maze. If one grain is not a heap, and adding a single grain cannot transform a non-heap into a heap, then how can any number of grains ever constitute a heap? This paradox extends far beyond sand on a beach. Consider the concept of baldness. At what precise number of hairs does a person transition from having a full head of hair to being bald? Or ponder wealth. Where exactly is the line between being merely comfortable and truly rich? These questions may seem trivial at first glance, but they reveal profound implications for how we understand and interact with the world around us. In the realm of law, the Sorites paradox takes on a particularly weighty significance. Legal systems often rely on terms that lack clear boundaries, such as reasonable doubt or excessive force. These vague predicates create a fertile ground for interpretation and disagreement. Imagine a courtroom where the very definition of justice hangs in the balance, teetering on the edge of linguistic ambiguity. How can we ensure fair and consistent application of the law when its fundamental concepts resist precise definition? The paradox doesn't confine itself to the courtroom. It spills over into the scientific world as well. In the meticulous realm of scientific classification, where precision is paramount, vague terms can sow seeds of confusion. How do we definitively categorize species when nature presents us with a continuum of variations? The boundaries between one species and another can be as fluid as the grains of sand slipping through our fingers, challenging our ability to communicate and understand the natural world with clarity. As we grapple with these questions, we might turn to mathematics for solace, seeking the comfort of numerical precision. Yet even here, the Sorites paradox persists, albeit in a different form. Mathematicians have approached this conundrum through the lens of gradual change and probability. Instead of searching for absolute definitions, we might consider thresholds or degrees of membership. A collection of sand might have a certain probability of being considered a heap, increasing as more grains are added. But this approach, while offering a degree of clarity, still leaves us with the task of determining where to set these thresholds. The Sorites paradox serves as a humbling reminder of the limitations of human cognition and language. It urges us to embrace the complexity of reality, to recognize that many of our everyday concepts are inherently imprecise. This realization can be both unsettling and liberating, On one hand, it challenges our desire for clear-cut categories and definitive answers. On the other, it opens up a world of nuance and possibility, inviting us to engage with the richness of a reality that defies simple classification. As we navigate this world of blurred boundaries, we might find ourselves asking, how do we make decisions and communicate effectively in a landscape where so many of our categories lack clear demarcations? Perhaps the answer lies not in seeking absolute precision, but in developing a more flexible, context-dependent approach to understanding and describing our world. Consider the practical implications of this paradox in our daily lives. When we describe someone as tall, or a day as hot, or a movie as long, we're relying on vague predicates that carry different meanings in different contexts. The Sorite's paradox invites us to be more mindful of these contextual nuances, to recognize that our categories are often fluid and relative rather than fixed and absolute. This recognition can lead to more nuanced thinking and communication. Instead of insisting on rigid classifications, we might embrace a more spectrum-based approach to understanding the world. This shift in perspective can foster greater empathy and understanding as we become more attuned to the complexities and variations within seemingly simple categories. 11. The ship of shifting identity. Picture a vessel, ancient and storied, its weathered planks creaking with the weight of centuries. This is no ordinary ship, but a paradox incarnate, sailing through the turbulent waters of philosophical inquiry. The ship of Theseus, as it's known, challenges our very notion of identity and continuity. As we embark on this intellectual voyage, prepare to question the very foundations of what makes an object or even a person fundamentally the same over time. Imagine standing on the dock, watching as skilled craftsmen meticulously replace each plank, each nail, each rope of this legendary ship. Year after year, piece by piece, the vessel undergoes a transformation. The wood that once touched the sea of antiquity gives way to fresh timber, yet the ship's form remains unchanged. Now, as you gaze upon this marvel of preservation, a question bubbles to the surface of your mind. Is this still the same ship that first set sail so long ago? This seemingly simple query opens a Pandora's box of philosophical conundrums. If we claim that the ship remains the same, despite its gradual renewal, at what point would we consider it a different vessel? Is it after the replacement of a single plank, or perhaps when half the ship has been rebuilt? Or does it maintain its identity until the very last original piece is swapped out? Some philosophers argue that the ship's identity is tied to its function and purpose. As long as it continues to sail the seas and fulfill its role, they contend, it remains the ship of Theseus, regardless of its material composition. This perspective values continuity of purpose over physical constancy, suggesting that identity is more about what something does than what it's made of. But others vehemently disagree, insisting that identity is inextricably linked to the physical substance of an object. They posit that if we were to gather all the original planks and rebuild the ship as it once was, this reconstructed vessel would be the true ship of Theseus. After all, they argue, it contains the very matter that first touched the water all those years ago. Yet a third school of thought challenges the very premise of the question. What if identity isn't a fixed, singular concept at all? Perhaps the ship of Theseus isn't one ship or another, but both or neither. This perspective suggests that identity is fluid, evolving, and shaped by context and perception. It invites us to consider that our understanding of sameness might be more a product of our cognitive limitations than an absolute truth. As we ponder these competing viewpoints, let's cast our gaze inward. The ship of Theseus paradox isn't just about wooden vessels and philosophical abstractions. It strikes at the heart of our own sense of self. Consider the fact that the cells in your body are constantly dying and regenerating. By the time you've lived several decades, most of the cells you were born with have been replaced. Are you still the same person you were at birth? What about 10 years ago? Yesterday? This line of inquiry leads us into the fascinating realm where philosophy meets science. Biologists and neuroscientists grapple with similar questions of identity and continuity in living organisms. The human brain, for instance, undergoes constant change at the cellular level, yet our sense of self persists. How do we reconcile the physical changes in our bodies and brains with the subjective experience of a continuous identity? The implications of the ship of Theseus paradox extend far beyond academia, resonating with cultural and religious concepts that have shaped human thought for millennia. Consider the idea of reincarnation, where an essence or soul is believed to persist through multiple physical forms. Or ponder the transhumanist vision of uploading consciousness to a digital realm, preserving identity beyond the confines of our biological bodies. These concepts, while diverse in their origins and details, all grapple with the fundamental questions of identity, transformation, and the essence of being. As we navigate these philosophical waters, we find ourselves face to face with the limitations of human understanding. The ship of Theseus paradox reveals the inadequacy of our binary thinking when confronted with the complexities of reality. It challenges us to embrace nuance and ambiguity, to recognize that identity might not be an all-or-nothing proposition, but a spectrum of continuity and change. 12. The bureaucratic bind. As we leave behind the shifting planks of Theseus's ship, we encounter a different kind of paradox, one that ensnares not objects, but human lives. Imagine a world where following the rules guarantees their violation and breaking them ensures compliance. This is the baffling universe of the Catch-22, where rationality bows to the whims of bureaucratic chaos. The term Catch-22 emerged from the pages of Joseph Heller's 1961 novel, a literary grenade lobbed into the heart of military bureaucracy. In Heller's world, soldiers seeking reprieve from dangerous missions face an impossible predicament. To be excused, they must prove their insanity. Yet the very act of requesting exemption demonstrates a rational mind, thereby negating their claim. It's a trap of circular logic, a snake devouring its own tail in perpetuity. But the tendrils of this paradox extend far beyond the realms of fiction, wrapping themselves around the pillars of our everyday existence. Consider the plight of the aspiring professional, caught in the clutches of a system that demands experience for entry-level positions. How does one gain experience without first being employed? It's a conundrum that leaves countless individuals suspended in a limbo of unrealized potential, their skills and enthusiasm withering on the vine of bureaucratic absurdity. The financial world, too, is not immune to the insidious reach of the Catch-22. Picture a young adult eager to establish their financial independence, only to find themselves ensnared in the credit paradox. To build a credit history, one must first obtain credit. Yet, without an existing credit history, lenders are reluctant to extend their trust. It's a financial Ouroboros, a self-perpetuating cycle that leaves many stranded on the shores of fiscal uncertainty. These scenarios, seemingly disparate, share a common thread. They are manifestations of deeper issues that plague our societal structures. They reflect the labyrinthine nature of power dynamics and control mechanisms embedded within bureaucracies. Systems designed to maintain order and efficiency inadvertently create traps, leaving individuals to navigate a maze where every turn leads back to the starting point. The psychological toll of such paradoxes is profound. Imagine the frustration of a person caught in the gears of a catch-22, their every effort to resolve their situation only serving to tighten the noose. It's a special kind of helplessness, a cognitive dissonance, that arises when one's actions, no matter how logical or well-intentioned, yield results that defy reason. This constant struggle against an immovable, irrational force can lead to a sense of powerlessness, eroding one's belief in the fairness and logic of the systems that govern our lives. Yet, in the face of such seemingly insurmountable obstacles, there is hope. The first step in unraveling a catch-22 lies in recognition. By understanding the paradoxical nature of these situations, we can begin to see them not as immutable laws of nature, but as human constructs, flawed and therefore subject to change. This awareness allows us to step back, to examine the rules that bind us from a new perspective, and to seek alternative paths that circumvent the circular logic. Consider the job seeker trapped in the experience paradox. Rather than accepting defeat, they might explore unconventional avenues to gain relevant skills, volunteering, internships, or self-initiated projects. By reframing their approach, they challenge the very premise of the catch-22, creating new pathways where none seemed to exist before. In the realm of credit building, innovative financial products have emerged to address the paradox. Secured credit cards and credit builder loans offer stepping stones for those caught in the credit conundrum, providing opportunities to establish creditworthiness without the traditional prerequisites. These solutions demonstrate that even the most entrenched catch-22 scenarios can be dismantled through creative thinking and systemic reform. On a broader scale, recognizing and addressing catch-22 situations requires a critical examination of the structures that govern our society. It calls for a re-evaluation of rules and regulations, questioning whether they serve their intended purpose or have become self-defeating mechanisms that hinder progress and fairness. This scrutiny can lead to policy changes, institutional reforms, and the development of more flexible, adaptable systems that accommodate the complexities of human experience. The catch-22 paradox serves as a stark reminder of the absurdities that can arise in complex, rule-based systems. It challenges us to think beyond binary solutions, to embrace nuance and flexibility in our approach to problem solving. By doing so, we not only work towards resolving individual catch-22 scenarios, but also contribute to the creation of more just, efficient, and humane societal structures. 13. The infinite hotel. As we leave behind the paradoxical realms of finite limitations, we step into a domain where even the concept of full loses its meaning. Imagine a hotel so vast, so incomprehensibly large, that it stretches beyond the horizon, beyond the stars, beyond the very edges of our imagination. This is no ordinary establishment. It's Hilbert's Grand Hotel, a thought experiment that challenges our understanding of infinity itself. Picture yourself as the receptionist at this extraordinary hotel. Every room, from room 1 to room D, is occupied. The no vacancy sign glows brightly in the cosmic night. Yet, as you stand at your post, a weary traveler materializes before you, seeking shelter. In any other hotel, you'd have to turn them away. But in Hilbert's Grand Hotel, the impossible becomes possible. With a smile, you pick up the phone and make an announcement. Attention, all guests. Please move to the room number that is one higher than your current room. Room 1 moves to room 2 to room 3, and so on, ad infinitum. As if by magic, room 1 becomes available for your new guest. But how can this be? How can a hotel with no vacancies suddenly accommodate a new arrival? This is where our intuitive understanding of numbers begins to falter. In the realm of infinity, the rules that govern our finite world no longer apply. The Grand Hotel paradox reveals that infinity is not just a very large number, it's a different kind of quantity altogether. It's a concept that stretches the very fabric of our mathematical understanding. Consider the implications of this paradox. If one new guest can be accommodated, what about 2, 10, 1,000? What if an infinite number of new guests suddenly appeared, each seeking a room? Remarkably, even this seemingly impossible situation can be resolved. You might instruct all current guests to move to a room number that's double their current one. Room 1 moves to room 2 to room 4, room 3 to room 6, and so on. Suddenly, all the odd-numbered rooms become available, ready to house an infinite number of new arrivals. This mind-bending scenario illustrates a fundamental property of infinity, specifically countable infinity. In mathematics, a set is considered countably infinite if its elements can be put into a one-to-one correspondence with the natural numbers 1, 2, 3. The rooms in our Grand Hotel, despite being infinite in number, can be counted. Each room has a unique whole number assigned to it, but not all infinities are created equal. Mathematician Georg Cantor, a pioneer in the study of infinity, showed that there are different sizes of infinity. The infinity of whole numbers, while vast, is smaller than the infinity of real numbers, which includes all fractions and decimals. This hierarchy of infinities adds yet another layer of complexity to our paradoxical hotel. As we grapple with these concepts, we might wonder, does infinity exist in the physical world, or is it merely a mathematical construct? Physicists and cosmologists have long pondered this question. The concept of infinity appears in theories about the cosmos, black holes, and the nature of time itself. Some theories suggest our universe might be infinite in extent, while others propose a vast but finite cosmos. The Grand Hotel paradox serves as a reminder that our intuitive understanding of space and number may not always align with the underlying reality of the universe. The implications of infinity stretch far beyond abstract mathematics. In computer science, for instance, the logic of Hilbert's Hotel finds practical applications. Algorithms that deal with potentially infinite processes can use similar principles to manage and manipulate vast amounts of data. By breaking down infinite problems into manageable steps, computer scientists can tackle challenges that might otherwise seem insurmountable. Moreover, the Grand Hotel paradox invites us to reconsider our notions of limitation and possibility. In a world where even a full hotel can always welcome more guests, what other assumed constraints might we challenge? How might embracing the concept of infinity change our approach to problem-solving, innovation, or even personal growth? As we check out of Hilbert's Grand Hotel, we carry with us a profound appreciation for the nature of infinity. We've seen how it defies our everyday logic, challenges our assumptions, and opens up new realms of possibility. The paradox reminds us that reality often extends far beyond the boundaries of our imagination, inviting us to continually expand our understanding of the world around us. 14. The cat in quantum limbo. From the vastness of infinity, we now turn to the minute world of quantum mechanics. Picture a realm where certainty dissolves, where the act of observation shapes reality itself. What if I told you that in this world, a cat could be simultaneously alive and dead? Welcome to Schrödinger's thought experiment, where the laws of nature seem to defy common sense and challenge our very understanding of existence. Imagine a sealed box, impenetrable to our senses. Within this unassuming container lies a paradox that stretches the fabric of reality to its limits. Inside, we find an unfortunate feline companion, a vial of poison, and a device that hinges on the quantum behavior of a single atom. This is no ordinary setup, but a stage for one of the most perplexing thought experiments in the history of physics. Consider the radioactive atom within the box, poised on the edge of decay. In the next hour, it may or may not emit a particle. If it does, the Geiger counter will detect it, triggering the release of the poison, sealing the cat's fate. If not, our feline friend lives on, blissfully unaware of its brush with quantum peril. But here's where our classical intuition fails us. According to quantum mechanics, until we open the box and observe the outcome, the atom exists in a superposition of states, both decayed and not decayed. This superposition cascades through the system. The Geiger counter becomes both triggered and not triggered. The poison is both released and contained. And most strikingly, our cat finds itself in the impossible position of being alive and dead simultaneously. This is not a mere trick of language or a philosophical wordplay. It is a direct consequence of quantum mechanics, a theory that has withstood rigorous testing and forms the backbone of our modern understanding of the subatomic world. But how can we reconcile this bizarre scenario with our everyday experience? We never encounter cats that are alive and dead at once. The answer lies in the concept of decoherence. As soon as the quantum system interacts with its environment, in this case, when we open the box, the superposition collapses into a single definite state. The cat becomes either alive or dead, but not both. This process, known as the collapse of the wave function, is at the heart of the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum mechanics. Yet this interpretation raises profound questions about the nature of reality and the role of consciousness in shaping it. If the act of observation determines the state of a quantum system, what does this mean for our understanding of free will and consciousness? Are we, as observers, somehow special in the universe, collapsing quantum possibilities into concrete realities with every glance? Or is there a deeper principle at work, one that we have yet to fully grasp? Some physicists have proposed alternative interpretations to grapple with these unsettling implications. The many worlds interpretation, for instance, suggests that every possible outcome of a quantum event occurs, spawning parallel universes where each possibility is realized. In this view, there would be a universe where the cat lives and another where it dies, with our consciousness simply following one of these branches. While Schrödinger's cat remains a thought experiment, the principles it illustrates have very real applications in cutting-edge technology. Quantum computing, for instance, harnesses the power of superposition to perform calculations that would be impossible for classical computers. By manipulating quantum bits or qubits that can exist in multiple states simultaneously, these machines promise to revolutionize fields from cryptography to drug discovery. Moreover, the concept of superposition is not limited to the microscopic world. Researchers have demonstrated quantum effects in increasingly large systems, pushing the boundaries of what we consider the quantum realm. These experiments force us to question where exactly the line between quantum and classical behavior lies, and whether such a line exists at all. As we contemplate the implications of Schrödinger's cat, we are invited to embrace a profound uncertainty about the nature of reality. The paradox challenges us to consider that the world may be far stranger and more malleable than our everyday experiences suggest. It hints at a universe where possibility and actuality intertwine in ways we are only beginning to understand. 15. The cosmic silence. As we contemplate the implications of Schrödinger's cat, we are invited to embrace a profound uncertainty about the nature of reality. But perhaps an even greater mystery awaits us in the night sky. With billions of potentially habitable planets in our galaxy alone, one would expect the cosmos to be abuzz with alien chatter. Yet we observe a deafening silence. This cosmic quietude, known as the Fermi paradox, challenges our very understanding of life's place in the universe. Imagine gazing up at the star-studded expanse above, each twinkling point of light potentially harboring worlds not unlike our own. The sheer vastness of the cosmos, with its estimated billions of galaxies, each containing billions of stars, presents a canvas of possibility that staggers the mind. Our own Milky Way alone is thought to contain an astonishing number of Earth-like planets, with current scientific estimates suggesting billions of potentially habitable worlds. The Kepler Space Telescope, our watchful eye in the cosmic ocean, has already confirmed over 2,300 exoplanets, many of which orbit within the life-nurturing embrace of their star's habitable zone. Consider then the unsettling question posed by physicist Enrico Fermi. If the universe is so vast and ancient, teeming with potential cradles of life, where are all the aliens? This seemingly simple inquiry unfurls into a tapestry of complex possibilities, each thread a potential explanation for our apparent cosmic solitude. One such thread is the rare Earth hypothesis, which posits that while simple life may be common throughout the universe, the emergence of complex life forms, like ourselves, requires an extraordinarily rare combination of factors. This hypothesis suggests that Earth's unique blend of environmental conditions, its stable orbit, protective magnetic field, and fortuitous position in the galactic habitable zone, may be a cosmic jackpot that rarely pays out. Yet, as we ponder our potential uniqueness, another intriguing possibility emerges: the zoo hypothesis. This theory proposes that advanced extraterrestrial civilizations are indeed aware of our existence, but choose to observe us from afar, much like zoologists studying wildlife in their natural habitat. Are we perhaps unwitting participants in a grand cosmic experiment, our every move scrutinized by unseen eyes? The silence of the stars may also hint at a more sobering reality encapsulated in the Great Filter Theory. This concept suggests that there exists a formidable obstacle in the evolution of life, a filter so challenging that few, if any, civilizations manage to surpass it. The unsettling question then becomes, have we already overcome this great filter, or does it loom ominously in our future? Is the emergence of life itself the rarest of occurrences, or do civilizations inevitably destroy themselves once they reach a certain level of technological advancement? As we grapple with these possibilities, scientists continue their tireless search for signs of extraterrestrial intelligence. Projects like the Breakthrough Listen initiative scan the heavens, ears pricked for the faintest whisper of artificial signals amid the cosmic static. These efforts represent humanity's collective desire to answer the age-old question, are we alone? The implications of resolving the Fermi paradox are profound. If we were to detect signs of extraterrestrial intelligence, it would fundamentally alter our understanding of life's prevalence in the universe. Conversely, if our searches continue to yield silence, we may be forced to confront the possibility of our cosmic uniqueness, a prospect both awe-inspiring and isolating. Consider how the resolution of this paradox might shape humanity's future. If we are indeed alone, does this imbue us with a greater responsibility as custodians of consciousness in the cosmos? Or, if the universe teems with intelligent life, how might this knowledge influence our technological development, our philosophies, and our very understanding of what it means to be human? The Fermi paradox serves as a mirror, reflecting our deepest hopes and fears about our place in the universe. It challenges us to question our assumptions about the nature of intelligence, the trajectory of technological progress, and the very meaning of existence. As we peer into the cosmic abyss, we are confronted with the limitations of our knowledge and the vastness of our ignorance. Yet, in this seemingly empty expanse, we find an invitation to wonder, to explore, and to push the boundaries of our understanding. The silence of the cosmos becomes a canvas upon which we project our dreams, our fears, and our limitless potential. It compels us to look both outward to the stars and inward to the depths of our own consciousness, seeking answers to questions that may shape the destiny of our species. 16. The prisoner's logical trap. From the vastness of the cosmos, we turn our attention to a small prison cell, where a peculiar sentence awaits execution. Imagine a scenario where flawless logic becomes a prisoner's own executioner. How can perfect reasoning lead to an unexpected demise? Welcome to the realm of the unexpected hanging paradox, where certainty breeds its own undoing. Picture a judge pronouncing a most unusual sentence. A prisoner is to be hanged on a weekday, but the execution will come as a surprise. This seemingly straightforward statement unleashes a torrent of logical reasoning that threatens to unravel the very fabric of determinism and free will. The prisoner, armed with nothing but their intellect, embarks on a mental journey that will challenge our understanding of knowledge, prediction, and the nature of surprise itself. Let us follow the prisoner's thought process, step by meticulous step. They begin by considering the last possible day of the sentence, Friday. If, by Thursday evening, the execution has not yet occurred, it would clearly be expected on Friday. But the judge's decree states that the hanging must be a surprise. Thus, the prisoner concludes, Friday cannot be the day of execution. With Friday eliminated, they turn their attention to Thursday. By Wednesday evening, if still alive, they would know the hanging must occur on Thursday. Again, this would not be a surprise, so Thursday is also ruled out. The prisoner's logic marches inexorably backward through the week. Wednesday falls to the same reasoning, as does Tuesday and finally Monday. Having eliminated all possible days, the prisoner arrives at a startling conclusion. The execution cannot happen at all. They have outsmarted the system through sheer force of rationality. Or have they? Here lies the crux of the paradox. For when Wednesday arrives and the guards come to lead the prisoner to the gallows, the hanging is indeed a complete surprise. The very certainty that made the execution impossible has paradoxically ensured its occurrence. The prisoner's impeccable logic, which seemed to guarantee their safety, has instead sealed their fate. This mind-bending scenario forces us to confront the limits of deductive reasoning, especially when applied to scenarios involving surprise or uncertainty. It challenges our notions of knowledge and predictability, raising profound questions about the nature of time and the interplay between logic and reality. How can a conclusion derived from seemingly flawless premises lead to such a contradictory outcome? Consider the philosophical implications of this paradox. It strikes at the heart of determinism, the idea that all events are inevitable consequences of prior causes. If the prisoner's reasoning is sound, how can the surprise execution still occur? Does this suggest a fundamental unpredictability in the universe, a crack in the edifice of cause and effect? Or does it reveal something about the nature of knowledge itself, hinting at the impossibility of perfect prediction, even in a deterministic world? The paradox also tangles with our conception of free will. The prisoner's attempt to outsmart the system through rational analysis seems to exemplify the exercise of free will. Yet, their very effort to assert control over their fate becomes the mechanism by which that fate is realized. This circularity echoes the age-old debate about whether our sense of free will is merely an illusion, a byproduct of our inability to fully comprehend the causal chains that govern our actions. Expanding our gaze beyond the prison walls, we find echoes of this paradox in real-world scenarios. Consider the stock market, where perfect knowledge of future trends would, in theory, allow investors to profit infallibly. Yet the very act of acting on such knowledge would alter the market, rendering the initial prediction invalid. Or ponder the realm of quantum mechanics, where the act of observation itself can change the outcome of an experiment, creating a similar loop of uncertainty. These examples illustrate how even flawless reasoning can lead to incorrect conclusions when applied to complex, self-referential systems. They remind us of the dangers of overconfidence in our predictive abilities, especially when dealing with situations that involve human behavior or complex interactions. The unexpected hanging paradox serves as a cautionary tale against the hubris of perfect logic, urging us to embrace a degree of humility in our approach to knowledge and prediction. So how can we navigate a world where even flawless reasoning can fail us? Perhaps the answer lies not in seeking absolute certainty, but in developing a more nuanced understanding of probability and uncertainty. Instead of trying to eliminate surprise entirely, we might learn to cultivate a mindset that remains open to the unexpected, that can adapt and thrive in the face of unpredictability. 17. Conclusion. As we emerge from this labyrinth of paradoxes, our minds pulse with the vibrant energy of contradiction. Each logical conundrum we've encountered has stretched the fabric of our understanding, revealing the intricate tapestry of reality. Consider how these paradoxes, like intellectual prisms, refract our thoughts into spectrums of possibilities. They challenge us to embrace complexity, to find comfort in the discomfort of uncertainty. Engaging with these paradoxes is more than an exercise in mental gymnastics. It's a journey towards deeper insights and critical thinking. As we grapple with these puzzles, we're not merely solving riddles, we're expanding our cognitive horizons. Philosophers and scientists have long recognized the value of paradoxes as catalysts for knowledge expansion, prompting us to question our established beliefs and explore the nuances of thought. The benefits of paradoxical thinking extend beyond intellectual curiosity. It enhances our problem-solving skills, fostering creativity by encouraging us to think outside conventional frameworks. As we continue to explore the mysteries at the edges of human understanding, let's carry with us the spirit of these paradoxes, ever questioning, ever seeking, ever growing in our comprehension of the universe and our place within it. Imagine a world where every choice you've ever made spawns an infinite number of parallel universes. In one reality, you're listening to this very recording. In another, you've already drifted off to sleep. In yet another, you never press play at all. As we embark on this journey through the multiverse of paradoxes, consider the profound implications of your every decision. Are you truly the author of your own destiny, or merely a passenger on an infinite train of possibilities? The answers may be more unsettling than you ever imagined. Picture yourself in a dimly lit room, face to face with a younger version of your grandfather. Your hand trembles as you reach for the pistol in your pocket. Can you pull the trigger, knowing it would erase your own existence? This haunting scenario forms the crux of the grandfather paradox, a temporal conundrum that has perplexed philosophers, scientists, and science fiction enthusiasts for decades. The grandfather paradox presents us with a logically impossible situation. If you were to travel back in time and prevent your own birth by eliminating your grandfather before he met your grandmother, how could you have existed to make the journey in the first place? This paradox exposes the intricate web of causality that underpins our understanding of time and challenges our notions of free will and determinism. Consider the implications of this paradox on our perception of time itself. We typically view time as a linear progression of events, each causing the next in a neat, orderly fashion. But the grandfather paradox shatters this comforting illusion, revealing a universe where cause and effect can become tangled in impossible knots. It forces us to question whether our actions in the present moment are truly free, or if they are bound by the immutable chains of past and future events. The concept of causal loops emerges as we grapple with this paradox. Imagine a circle where each point is both the cause and effect of every other point. In the context of the grandfather paradox, your very existence becomes both the reason for and the result of your time-traveling mission. This circular causality challenges our fundamental understanding of how events unfold and interact across the temporal landscape. As we ponder the philosophical ramifications of this paradox, we must ask ourselves, does it conclusively prove the impossibility of time travel? Or does it merely expose the limitations of our linear perception of causality? Perhaps our understanding of time is fundamentally flawed, and the universe operates on principles far more complex and counterintuitive than we can currently comprehend. Various resolutions to the grandfather paradox have been proposed over the years, each offering a unique perspective on the nature of time and reality. One such solution involves the concept of branching timelines. In this model, when you travel back in time and alter the past, you create a new branch of reality, a parallel universe where your actions have consequences, but which remains separate from your original timeline. This approach preserves causality within each branch, while allowing for the possibility of time travel and alternate histories. Another proposed resolution suggests the existence of self-consistent loops. In this scenario, any attempt to change the past would inevitably lead to the very events that caused you to travel back in time in the first place. Your actions in the past become an integral part of the timeline, creating a closed loop that maintains the consistency of history. This resolution implies a universe where free will may be an illusion, and our choices are predetermined by the inescapable logic of temporal consistency. Quantum mechanics offers yet another intriguing perspective on the grandfather paradox through the many worlds interpretation. This theory posits that every possible outcome of a quantum event occurs, each in its own separate universe. Applied to time travel, it suggests that your journey to the past would automatically transport you to a parallel universe where your actions wouldn't affect your original timeline. In this multiverse of possibilities, paradoxes dissolve into a sea of infinite realities. As we delve deeper into these potential resolutions, we begin to grasp the profound implications the grandfather paradox has for our understanding of reality itself. It challenges our most fundamental assumptions about cause and effect, forcing us to confront the possibility that our existence is far more precarious and interconnected than we ever imagined. The choices we make, the actions we take, may ripple across time in ways we can scarcely comprehend. As we unravel the threads of causality, we find ourselves entangled in a cosmic tapestry beyond our comprehension. The choices we make ripple across time, but what if those ripples could travel upstream? Recent experiments in quantum physics hint at a universe where causality is not the immutable law we once believed. Could the future influence the past? And if so, what becomes of our cherished notions of cause and effect? Consider the concept of retrocausality in quantum physics, a mind-bending idea that suggests an effect can precede its cause. This radical notion challenges our most fundamental understanding of how the universe operates. Imagine a world where every action is not just a consequence of the past, but potentially a harbinger of the future. In this reality, the arrow of time becomes less of a straight line and more of a Mobius strip, twisting and looping back upon itself in ways our minds struggle to grasp. The implications of retrocausality extend far beyond the realm of theoretical physics. They seep into the very foundations of our philosophical understanding of free will and determinism. If the future can influence the past, are our choices truly our own? Or are we merely actors in a cosmic play, our lines already written by events yet to come? The grandfather paradox, once a thought experiment confined to the realm of science fiction, now takes on new dimensions of complexity in light of these quantum revelations. As we grapple with these mind-bending concepts, we encounter the Novikov self-consistency principle, a theoretical framework that attempts to resolve causal paradoxes. This principle asserts that any actions taken by a time traveler must be consistent with the established timeline. In other words, the universe conspires to prevent contradictions, ensuring that any changes made to the past are already accounted for in the future from which the traveler came. But how can this be? How can the fabric of reality be so flexible yet so unyielding? To truly appreciate the depth of this conundrum, we must turn our attention to real-world experiments that seem to defy our understanding of cause and effect. Consider the delayed choice quantum eraser experiments, where the behavior of particles appears to be influenced by measurements made after the particles have already been detected. These experiments suggest that the act of observation can retroactively affect outcomes, further blurring the lines between past, present, and future. Imagine a particle traveling through space and time, its properties undetermined until the moment of measurement. Now, picture a second measurement made after the first, capable of erasing the information gathered by the initial observation. In a universe governed by classical causality, this should have no effect on the particle's behavior, and yet the evidence suggests otherwise. It's as if the particle knows in advance that its information will be erased, adjusting its behavior accordingly. But how can a particle in the present respond to a future that hasn't yet occurred? This experimental evidence forces us to confront the possibility that our entire conception of reality might need to be revised. The comfortable linearity of time, the reassuring progression from cause to effect, begins to look less like an immutable law of nature and more like a convenient illusion, a simplification our minds use to make sense of a far more complex and interconnected universe. As we ponder these possibilities, we must ask ourselves, what if causality itself is merely an artifact of our limited perception? Perhaps, like the Flatlanders in Edwin Abbott's Flatland, we are beings trapped in a lower dimensional understanding of a higher dimensional reality. Our perception of cause and effect might be nothing more than shadows on the wall of Plato's cave, crude approximations of a truth too vast and intricate for our minds to fully comprehend. The grandfather paradox, viewed through this new lens, becomes more than just a puzzling thought experiment. It becomes a key that unlocks the door to a new understanding of reality itself. It challenges us to expand our minds, to reach beyond the comfortable confines of linear thinking and embrace a universe where past, present, and future are not fixed points, but fluid, interconnected states of being. In this new paradigm, time travel paradoxes are not problems to be solved, but windows into the true nature of existence. They reveal a universe far stranger and more wonderful than we ever imagined, where the boundaries between cause and effect are as permeable as the event horizon of a black hole, and where the very fabric of reality is woven from threads of possibility and paradox. As we gaze into the intricate tapestry of existence, a new paradigm emerges, one that challenges our fundamental understanding of reality itself. Imagine not just a single thread of time, but an infinite cosmic quilt, each patch a complete universe unto itself. This is the realm of the multiverse, a concept that stretches the boundaries of our imagination and might just hold the key to unraveling the knots of temporal paradoxes. The many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics posits a reality far more expansive than we ever dreamed. In this view, every quantum event spawns new universes, each representing a different outcome. Consider the profound implications of this theory. Every decision you make, every path not taken, creates a new branch of reality. The universe where you chose coffee this morning coexists with the one where you opted for tea, separated by an invisible, impenetrable barrier. But how does this cosmic proliferation of realities interact with the concept of time travel? The multiverse theory offers a tantalizing solution to the paradoxes that have long plagued our temporal thought experiments. In this framework, a time traveler venturing into the past wouldn't alter their own timeline, but instead step into a parallel universe. The grandfather you might attempt to eliminate exists in a different reality from the one that gave birth to you. This interpretation transforms our understanding of causality and free will. If every possible outcome exists somewhere in the multiverse, what does it mean to make a choice? Are our decisions merely the act of selecting which universe we will experience next? The implications are staggering. In a multiverse where every possibility is realized, the concept of changing the past becomes meaningless. Instead, time travel becomes a form of universal navigation, a journey between already existing realities. Yet, this solution comes at a cost. Our intuitive understanding of reality, built on the comfortable foundation of a single shared universe, crumbles in the face of infinite parallel worlds. The uniqueness of our experiences, the weight of our choices, all seem diminished when we consider that every alternative plays out somewhere in the cosmic ensemble. Consider the ethical quandaries that arise in a multiverse. If every decision creates new universes, are we responsible for the consequences of our actions across all realities? Imagine a world where every choice you make spawns countless new universes, each bearing the fruit of your decisions. The weight of such responsibility is almost unfathomable. Are we morally culpable for the suffering that might occur in universes created by our less noble choices? The multiverse theory also raises profound questions about personal identity. If there are infinite versions of you, each making slightly different choices, which one is the real you? Are we merely one expression of a vast, multidimensional self spread across countless realities? This concept challenges our very notion of individuality and forces us to reconsider what it means to be us. From a scientific perspective, the multiverse theory remains a topic of intense debate. While it offers elegant solutions to some of the most perplexing questions in quantum mechanics, it also raises new challenges. Critics argue that the theory lacks empirical evidence and may be fundamentally untestable. After all, how can we observe or measure universes that are, by definition, separate from our own? Yet, proponents of the many worlds interpretation argue that it provides a more coherent explanation for quantum phenomena than other interpretations. The seemingly random outcomes of quantum experiments could be explained by the branching of universes, each representing a different result. This view suggests that the apparent randomness we observe is merely our limited perspective on a much grander, deterministic multiverse. As we contemplate these mind-bending possibilities, we must also consider their implications for our understanding of time itself. In a multiverse, time might not be the linear progression we perceive, but a vast, multidimensional landscape. Our journey through this temporal terrain might be less like following a single path and more like navigating a complex network of interconnected realities. The multiverse theory offers a resolution to time travel paradoxes by suggesting that they are, in fact, impossible. In this view, every potential outcome already exists in some reality. The act of time travel doesn't change the past. It simply relocates the traveler to a universe where the desired outcome has already occurred. This eliminates the logical contradictions that arise from altering one's own timeline. Just when you thought you had a grip on time travel, the cosmos throws another curveball. What if, instead of leaping between parallel universes, you could loop through your own timeline? Picture a roller coaster that brings you face to face with your past and future selves. Welcome to the mind-bending world of closed time-like curves. Closed timelike curves, or CTCs, are paths through space-time that loop back on themselves, allowing for the possibility of time travel to the past. Imagine tracing your finger along a circle drawn on paper. No matter where you start, you'll eventually return to the same point. Now, replace that circle with the fabric of space-time itself, and you've got a rudimentary understanding of a CTC. But why should we take these cosmic loops seriously? It turns out that CTCs aren't just the stuff of science fiction. They're supported by solutions to Einstein's field equations, the mathematical foundation of general relativity. Two famous examples stand out: the Gödel universe and the Tipler cylinder. Kurt Gödel, best known for his incompleteness theorems in mathematics, proposed a solution to Einstein's equations in 1949 that described a rotating universe. In this cosmic merry-go-round, the very structure of space-time twists and turns, creating paths that circle back through time. The Gödel universe serves as a theoretical playground where the arrows of time bend into loops, challenging our notion of a linear, forward-marching reality. Frank Tipler, on the other hand, envisioned a more concrete, albeit equally improbable scenario. Picture an infinitely long cylinder, massive beyond comprehension, spinning at incredible speeds. Tipler's calculations suggested that such an object could warp space-time around it, forming CTCs in its vicinity. While we're unlikely to encounter planet-sized, rapidly rotating cylinders anytime soon, the Tipler cylinder illustrates how extreme gravitational conditions might give rise to these temporal loops. The existence of CTCs raises profound questions about causality, the relationship between cause and effect that forms the bedrock of our understanding of the universe. In a world with CTCs, events could influence their own past, creating potential paradoxes that make the grandfather paradox look like child's play. Imagine receiving a message from your future self, warning you about a mistake you're about to make. You heed the warning, avoiding the error, but in doing so, you've changed the future that led to the warning being sent in the first place. This is the kind of logical pretzel that CTCs can twist our minds into. But the implications of CTCs go far beyond mere logical conundrums. They strike at the heart of our conception of free will and determinism. If your future actions can influence your past, were your choices ever truly your own? Or are we all simply actors in a predetermined cosmic play, our apparent decisions merely the unfolding of a script written in the very structure of space-time? Consider a scenario where you encounter your past self on a CTC. You share knowledge of future events, altering the course of your own history. But if your past is changed, how did you become the future self that returned to change it? This circularity of cause and effect challenges our linear understanding of time and raises questions about the nature of identity and consciousness. Some physicists have proposed resolutions to these paradoxes. Igor Novikov's self-consistency principle suggests that the universe simply won't allow contradictory events to occur along CTCs. In this view, any attempt to change the past would inevitably fail or inadvertently cause the very events you were trying to prevent. It's as if the universe has a built-in safeguard against logical inconsistencies, ensuring that cause and effect remain intact, even if they form a closed loop. But what if CTCs are more than just theoretical constructs? Recent research into these temporal oddities has focused on their potential feasibility and the conditions under which they might exist. While we're far from building a time machine, the exploration of CTCs offers tantalizing insights into the nature of time and reality itself. For instance, some theories suggest that microscopic CTCs might exist at the quantum level, influencing the behavior of particles in ways we're only beginning to understand. If true, this could have profound implications for our understanding of quantum mechanics and the fundamental nature of reality. It might even provide a bridge between the seemingly incompatible worlds of quantum physics and general relativity. As we contemplate the existence of CTCs, we're forced to confront the possibility that time is far more complex and malleable than we ever imagined. The comfortable linearity of past, present, and future may be an illusion, a simplification of a reality where all moments exist simultaneously, interconnected in a vast multidimensional tapestry of space-time. 6. The illusion of choice, free will in a paradoxical universe. Picture your life as an intricate tapestry, each thread representing a choice you've made. Now, consider a paradoxical twist. What if the pattern of this tapestry was predetermined, woven by the very fabric of space-time itself? In a universe where time loops back on itself, where cause and effect become tangled in a cosmic knot, can we truly claim to have free will? The philosophical debate surrounding free will and determinism has raged for centuries, but the introduction of time travel paradoxes adds a new layer of complexity to this age-old question. As we stand at the crossroads of infinite possibilities, we must confront a startling possibility. Our actions may be part of a predetermined sequence of events, shaped by the inexorable march of time itself. Imagine for a moment that you could travel back in time and influence your own past. This seemingly innocuous act creates a causal loop, a circular chain of events where each point in time becomes both the cause and effect of every other point. In this scenario, your future self's actions have already shaped your past choices. Consider this. Are you truly making decisions or simply acting out a predetermined script written by the universe itself? The implications of causal loops on personal agency are profound. If your future self influences your past actions, were those actions ever truly free? This paradoxical situation challenges our fundamental understanding of choice and free will. It suggests that our decisions may be part of a complex, interconnected web of events that extends both forward and backward in time. But the rabbit hole of free will in a paradoxical universe goes even deeper when we consider the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. This theory posits that every quantum event spawns new universes, each representing a different outcome. In this vast multiverse, every possible choice you could make is realized in some parallel reality. At first glance, this might seem to support the existence of free will. After all, if every choice is made somewhere, doesn't that imply freedom of choice? However, this interpretation raises a perplexing question. If all possible choices are predetermined to occur across the multiverse, is any single decision truly free? Or are we simply playing out an infinite number of predetermined scripts, each one a slight variation on the others? The ethical implications of a deterministic universe are equally mind-bending. If our actions are predetermined by the structure of space-time or the branching of parallel universes, can we be held morally responsible for them? This question strikes at the heart of our justice systems, our social structures, and our very concept of personal responsibility. Imagine a courtroom where the defendant argues that their crime was inevitable, predetermined by the cosmic tapestry of time itself. How would we approach concepts like punishment or rehabilitation in a universe where free will is an illusion? These are not mere philosophical musings, but questions that could fundamentally reshape our understanding of ethics and morality. Recent advances in neuroscience have added yet another layer to this complex debate. Studies indicate that our decision-making processes are influenced by unconscious factors, suggesting that our sense of free will may be an illusion shaped by brain activity occurring prior to our conscious awareness. This research implies that our choices may be determined by neural processes beyond our control, further challenging the notion of free will. Yet even as we grapple with these mind-bending concepts, we must consider a paradoxical possibility. Perhaps our sense of free will, illusory though it may be, is a necessary construct for navigating a reality filled with temporal paradoxes and quantum uncertainties. In a universe where causality can loop back on itself and where every possible outcome exists simultaneously, the illusion of choice may be the thread that holds our perception of reality together. The grandfather paradox serves as a powerful lens through which we can examine the tension between free will and determinism. It forces us to confront the possibility that our choices may be constrained by the very fabric of space-time, challenging our deepest assumptions about agency and responsibility. In a reality where time is not a linear progression, but a vast, multidimensional landscape, the concept of free will becomes as fluid and malleable as time itself. 7. The Liar's Labyrinth. Truth in the mirror of paradox. As we navigate the fluid landscape of time and free will, we encounter another paradox that challenges our very notion of truth itself. Imagine a statement so deceptively simple, yet so profoundly perplexing, that it has confounded philosophers for millennia. What if a single sentence could unravel the fabric of logic? Consider this. This statement is false. In just 5 words, we find ourselves trapped in a labyrinth of circular reasoning. If we assume the statement is true, then it must accurately describe itself as false. However, if it is indeed false, then the statement is actually true. This mind-bending contradiction is the essence of the liar paradox, a classic puzzle that has puzzled thinkers since ancient times. The roots of this paradox stretch back to the Greek philosopher Epimenides, who famously declared, "All Cretans are liars." This self-referential statement creates a similar logical quandary. If Epimenides, himself a Cretan, speaks the truth, then he must be lying. But if he's lying, then his statement might be true. It's a dizzying dance of truth and falsehood that seems to defy resolution. In the realm of modern logic, the liar paradox takes on a more formalized structure. Logicians grapple with statements like, "This sentence is false," which encapsulate the essence of how self-reference can lead to logical contradictions. Such statements challenge our ability to classify assertions into simple categories of truth or falsehood. They force us to confront the limitations of traditional logical frameworks that rely on binary truth values. Think about the implications of this paradox for a moment. Our entire system of reasoning is built upon the foundation of true and false statements. We use logic to make sense of the world, to build arguments, and to advance our understanding of reality. But what happens when this fundamental tool breaks down? The liar paradox exposes cracks in the very bedrock of our rational thought processes. As we delve deeper into this logical conundrum, we find that it's not merely an abstract puzzle for philosophers to ponder. The liar paradox has far-reaching implications that touch upon the nature of language, the limits of formal systems, and even the foundations of mathematics and computer science. One proposed solution to this paradox comes from the work of Alfred Tarski, who suggested a hierarchy of languages. In this framework, statements about truth must be made in a higher-level language to avoid self-reference. This approach helps to prevent contradictions by establishing a clear separation between different levels of truth claims. But while this solution offers a way to manage the paradox within formal systems, it doesn't entirely dispel the underlying mystery. Another intriguing approach is that of dialetheism, a philosophical stance that accepts that some statements can be both true and false simultaneously. This perspective challenges our classical binary view of truth and offers a way to handle self-referential paradoxes without resorting to contradictions. It's a radical departure from traditional logic, but one that might be necessary to fully grapple with the complexities of self-reference. The liar paradox shares a deep connection with one of the most profound results in 20th century mathematics, Gödel's incompleteness theorems. Kurt Gödel demonstrated that in any sufficiently complex formal system, there are statements that cannot be proven true or false within the system itself. This result echoes the self-referential issues posed by the liar paradox, highlighting fundamental limitations in our ability to create complete and consistent logical frameworks. Consider the implications of these ideas for artificial intelligence and computer science. As we strive to create machines that can reason and make decisions, we must carefully manage self-referential constructs to avoid paradoxical outcomes. Recursive functions in programming, for instance, must have proper termination conditions to prevent infinite loops, a practical manifestation of the logical circles we encounter in the liar paradox. The paradox serves as a humbling reminder of the complexity inherent in our attempts to formalize reasoning. It challenges us to question our most basic assumptions about truth and invites ongoing exploration of alternative frameworks for understanding the world. Perhaps the resolution to this ancient puzzle lies not in finding a definitive answer, but in embracing a more nuanced and flexible concept of truth itself. 8. The Ship of Theseus, Identity Adrift. As we sail through the turbulent waters of philosophical inquiry, we encounter a paradox that threatens to capsize our very notion of identity. Picture an ancient vessel, its timbers creaking with the weight of centuries, each plank and rope bearing witness to countless voyages across treacherous seas. This is no ordinary ship, but the legendary vessel of Theseus, a paradox that has challenged philosophers for millennia. Imagine, if you will, that over the course of many years, every single component of this ship is gradually replaced. The worn planks are swapped for fresh timber, frayed ropes exchanged for new ones, and tattered sails unfurled anew. As the final original piece is removed, a profound question emerges. Is this still the same ship that Theseus once sailed? And if not, at what precise moment did it cease to be? This thought experiment, known as the Ship of Theseus paradox, strikes at the heart of our understanding of identity and persistence through time. It challenges us to question the very nature of what makes an object, or indeed a person, fundamentally itself. As we peel back the layers of this enigma, we find ourselves adrift in a sea of philosophical uncertainty. Consider the approach of mereological essentialism, which posits that an object's identity is inextricably tied to its physical components. Through this lens, the moment the first piece of Theseus's ship is replaced, it ceases to be the original vessel. But does this align with our intuitive understanding of identity? After all, we routinely replace parts of objects without considering them fundamentally altered. Perhaps a more nuanced perspective lies in the realm of four-dimensionalism. This view suggests that objects are not merely three-dimensional entities existing in the present, but rather four-dimensional beings extended through time. In this framework, the ship's identity persists as long as there is a continuity of form and function, even as its individual components change. The ship becomes a temporal worm, stretching across the fourth dimension, maintaining its essence through the flow of time. But the implications of the Ship of Theseus extend far beyond mere objects. They ripple through the very core of our understanding of personal identity. Consider this. Every cell in your body is replaced over time, yet you still consider yourself the same person. Are you, in fact, the same individual you were a decade ago, or have the gradual changes in your body and mind created an entirely new being? This question of personal identity raises profound implications for our understanding of consciousness, memory, and the nature of the self. If we are not the same person we were in the past, what does this mean for concepts of responsibility, guilt, or achievement? How can we reconcile our intuitive sense of continuous selfhood with the reality of constant physical and mental change? The paradox also casts a long shadow over legal and cultural concepts of identity and ownership. In the realm of historical artifacts, for instance, how do we determine the authenticity of an object that has undergone extensive restoration? The concept of functional continuity often plays a crucial role in these determinations. A restored artifact might still be considered the same object if it continues to fulfill its cultural or historical role, even if most of its physical components have been replaced. Modern variations of the Ship of Theseus paradox further complicate our understanding of identity. Consider the grandfather's axe thought experiment, where a family heirloom axe has had both its head and handle replaced over generations. Is it still the same axe that belonged to the grandfather? Or take the science fiction concept of teleportation, where an individual is disassembled at the molecular level and reassembled elsewhere. Is the person who emerges from the teleporter the same individual who entered it? As we grapple with these questions, we begin to suspect that the resolution to the Ship of Theseus paradox might require a fundamental shift in how we conceive of objects and identity. Perhaps identity is not an inherent property of objects at all, but rather a conceptual construct that we impose upon the world. This perspective suggests that identity may be more fluid and context-dependent than we typically assume, shaped by our perceptions, cultural norms, and pragmatic needs. The implications of this paradox extend far beyond philosophy, reaching into the realms of cognitive science and our understanding of consciousness. By questioning the nature of identity and change, we open new avenues for exploring the mechanisms of memory, the continuity of consciousness, and the very essence of what it means to be a persistent self in a world of constant flux. 9. Zeno's infinite regress, the impossibility of motion. From the fluid nature of identity, we now step onto seemingly solid ground, only to find it crumbling beneath our feet. Consider this. Before you can complete a single step, you must first cover half the distance, then half of the remaining half, and so on ad infinitum. How then can you ever reach your destination? This simple question unravels the very fabric of our understanding of motion and time, plunging us into the depths of Zeno's dichotomy paradox. Zeno of Elea, a pre-Socratic Greek philosopher, crafted a series of paradoxes designed to challenge our most fundamental assumptions about reality. His dichotomy paradox, in particular, presents us with a logical conundrum that seems to render even the simplest act of movement impossible. Imagine yourself poised to take a step forward. Before you can complete that step, you must first traverse half the distance. But before you can cover that half, you must cover a quarter of the original distance, and before that quarter, an eighth. As you mentally divide the distance into infinitely smaller fractions, you find yourself paralyzed by an endless sequence of prerequisite movements. The paradox forces us to confront a startling possibility. Could it be that our everyday experience of motion is fundamentally flawed? That the simple act of walking across a room requires us to complete an infinite number of tasks in a finite amount of time? This notion strikes at the heart of our intuitive grasp of reality, suggesting that if an infinite process is indeed required to complete a finite task, motion itself might be fundamentally impossible. Yet, we move. We walk, we run, we dance. The world around us is in constant flux. How can we reconcile this apparent contradiction? The tension between our lived experience and the logical implications of Zeno's paradox invites us to question the very nature of space, time, and infinity itself. Zeno's paradoxes were not mere philosophical curiosities. They were designed to demonstrate profound contradictions in the notion of motion and change, challenging the assumptions of his contemporaries about the fundamental nature of reality. These thought experiments serve as a gateway to deeper contemplation about the structure of the universe and our place within it. Consider, for instance, the paradox of Achilles and the tortoise. In this scenario, the fleet-footed Achilles gives a head start to a tortoise in a race. By the time Achilles reaches the tortoise's starting point, the tortoise will have moved forward. When Achilles reaches that new position, the tortoise will have advanced again. This process continues indefinitely, seemingly preventing Achilles from ever overtaking the slower tortoise. These paradoxes all stem from the problem of infinite divisibility. They challenge us to grapple with the concept of continuity in space and time. Are these fundamental aspects of our reality truly continuous, or might they be ultimately discrete at some microscopic scale? The influence of Zeno's paradoxes extends far beyond ancient Greek philosophy. They have played a crucial role in the development of mathematical concepts, particularly in the field of calculus. The tools of calculus provide a framework for understanding infinite processes and continuous motion, offering a resolution to the paradox by demonstrating that infinitely many steps can indeed result in a finite journey. Modern mathematics shows us that while there are infinitely many steps in Zeno's paradox, their size diminishes quickly enough to allow for the completion of a finite journey. This mathematical insight invites us to reconsider our intuitive understanding of infinity and its relationship to the finite world we inhabit. The relevance of Zeno's paradoxes extends into the realm of modern physics, where they continue to inform discussions about the nature of space-time and quantum mechanics. At the quantum scale, our classical notions of continuity break down, and we're forced to confront a reality that defies our macroscopic intuitions. Consider the Planck length, the smallest measurable distance in our universe according to current theories. Could this represent a fundamental granularity to space-time, a limit to how finely we can divide distance? Or does the continuous nature of space persist even at this minuscule scale? These questions echo the challenges posed by Zeno over 2 millennia ago, demonstrating the enduring power of his paradoxes to stimulate scientific and philosophical inquiry. Zeno's dichotomy. Paradox serves as a reminder of the complexities involved in understanding motion and infinity. It encourages deeper philosophical reflection on the nature of existence and our place in the universe. As we grapple with these concepts, we're invited to question our most basic assumptions about reality and to embrace the wonder and mystery that lie at the heart of our existence. 10. Calculus, taming infinity's wild frontier. As we ponder the mysteries of existence, our journey through paradox leads us to an unexpected destination, the realm of mathematics. Imagine a world where infinity becomes a tool, where the impossible becomes calculable. Welcome to the frontier of calculus, where the very paradoxes that once paralyzed our understanding of motion now propel us toward new horizons of knowledge. In the 17th century, mathematicians like Isaac Newton and Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz embarked on a quest to unravel the enigmas of motion and change. Their journey was inspired in part by the ancient puzzles posed by Zeno of Elea. Where philosophers saw impasse, these pioneers of calculus saw opportunity. They crafted a mathematical framework that would not only address the challenges presented by Zeno's paradoxes, but would also revolutionize our understanding of the physical world. Consider the dichotomy paradox, a thought experiment that seems to render motion impossible through an infinite series of halvings. How can one ever complete a journey if there are always more divisions to traverse? Calculus offers a surprising answer by embracing infinity itself. Through the concept of limits, mathematicians found a way to sum infinite series, demonstrating how an endless number of steps can converge to a finite result. This elegant solution not only resolves the apparent contradiction in Zeno's paradox, but also opens up new avenues for describing continuous change. At the heart of calculus lie three fundamental concepts: limits, derivatives, and integrals. Each of these tools provides a unique lens through which to view the world of continuous change. Limits allow us to approach infinity without ever quite reaching it, much like Achilles forever closing the gap with the tortoise. Derivatives capture the essence of instantaneous change, revealing the rate at which quantities transform from one moment to the next. Integrals, on the other hand, enable us to accumulate these infinitesimal changes, building complex wholes from countless tiny parts. Imagine standing at the edge of a cliff, watching waves crash against the shore below. With calculus, we can describe the precise motion of each water droplet, from the crest of the wave to its final splash against the rocks. We can calculate the force of the impact, predict the erosion of the cliffside over time, and even model the intricate patterns of foam left behind on the sand. What once seemed like an impossibly complex system becomes a dance of equations, each variable intertwining with the others in a mathematical ballet. But as we wield the power of calculus to tame infinity, we must pause to consider the philosophical implications of our mathematical conquest. Have we truly resolved the paradoxes that inspired this field? Or have we merely shifted them to a higher plane of abstraction? The use of infinity as a mathematical tool raises profound questions about the nature of reality and our ability to describe it. Consider the concept of continuity, so central to calculus. We model the physical world as a seamless fabric, infinitely divisible and smooth. Yet, at the quantum scale, reality reveals itself to be granular and discrete. How do we reconcile these seemingly contradictory views? Perhaps the paradoxes of Zeno have not been vanquished, but transformed, challenging us to probe even deeper into the foundations of mathematics and physics. Despite these philosophical quandaries, the practical power of calculus is undeniable. From the orbits of planets to the flow of electricity, from the spread of populations to the optimization of economic systems, calculus provides us with the tools to describe and predict the behavior of dynamic systems. Engineers use it to design bridges that can withstand the forces of nature, while physicists employ it to unravel the mysteries of the cosmos. In each application, we see the legacy of those ancient paradoxes, now transformed into engines of discovery. As we reflect on the journey from Zeno's puzzles to the development of calculus, we find a testament to human ingenuity and the power of abstract thought. The very challenges that once seemed to negate the possibility of motion have become the foundation for our most sophisticated understanding of change. Calculus has given us a language to describe the fluidity of the universe, allowing us to peer into the infinite and extract meaning from its depths. 11. The barber's razor. Logic turned against itself. From the fluid depths of calculus, we now turn to a razor-sharp edge of logic that threatens to cut through the very fabric of reason. Picture a quaint barbershop in a small town where a simple sign hangs in the window: "I shave all and only those who do not shave themselves." As you ponder this innocent-seeming rule, a troubling question begins to gnaw at the edges of your mind. Who shaves the barber? This seemingly innocuous scenario, introduced by the brilliant mind of Bertrand Russell in the early 20th century, serves as a classic illustration of a self-referential paradox that exposes fundamental issues in logic and set theory. As we unpack this puzzle, known as the barber paradox, we'll find ourselves standing at the precipice of a logical abyss, where the very foundations of mathematical reasoning begin to crumble beneath our feet. Consider the barber's dilemma. If he shaves himself, he must not shave himself according to his own rule. Yet if he doesn't shave himself, he must shave himself. This circular logic creates an inescapable contradiction, a conceptual Ouroboros that consumes its own tail in an endless loop of impossibility. But what makes this paradox so profoundly unsettling is not merely its logical impasse, it's the far-reaching implications it holds for the entire edifice of mathematics and reason. The Barber paradox emerged during a time of great upheaval in the world of mathematics. Brilliant minds were striving to establish a solid foundation for their discipline, seeking to build a tower of knowledge that would reach the heavens of certainty. Yet, like the biblical Tower of Babel, their efforts were confounded by an unexpected complication: the problem of self-reference. Imagine you're constructing a vast library of knowledge, each book representing a set or a concept. As you organize these tomes, you realize that some books might need to reference themselves or include descriptions of other books. But what happens when a book claims to catalog all books that don't catalog themselves? Should it include itself in its pages? This is the essence of Russell's paradox, of which the Barber paradox is a more accessible illustration. The implications of this paradox extend far beyond the confines of a small-town barbershop. It forces us to reconsider the very rules and definitions we use to categorize and analyze sets, the fundamental building blocks of mathematics. How can we construct a consistent system of logic if self-reference leads to such irreconcilable contradictions? In response to this crisis, mathematicians and logicians began developing more robust frameworks to avoid these pitfalls. One significant approach was the development of type theory, which categorizes sets into different types to prevent self-reference. In this system, a set of a certain type cannot contain sets of the same or higher type, effectively avoiding the circular definitions that lead to paradoxes. But the ripples of the Barber paradox spread even further, influencing philosophical inquiries into the nature of truth, self-reference, and the limits of human cognition. It serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of assuming that all logically consistent statements can be assigned a truth value. Some statements, it seems, are neither true nor false, but exist in a liminal space that challenges our binary notions of logic. As we grapple with these ideas, consider how they might apply to your own thought processes. Have you ever caught yourself in a circular argument, unable to break free from a loop of reasoning? The Barber paradox reminds us that even our most carefully constructed logical systems can harbor hidden contradictions, waiting to be exposed by the right line of questioning. In the realm of computer science, the legacy of the Barber paradox lives on. Programmers must be ever vigilant against self-referential constructs that can lead to infinite loops or logical inconsistencies. Database designers must carefully structure their systems to avoid paradoxical relationships between datasets. The ghost of the paradoxical Barber haunts the silicon halls of our most advanced technologies, a constant reminder of the need for rigorous logical frameworks. Yet even as we develop more sophisticated tools to navigate these logical labyrinths, new approaches emerge that challenge our traditional notions of consistency. Paraconsistent logic, for instance, allows for contradictions to coexist without leading to logical explosion. In this framework, the Barber's dilemma might be seen not as an irresolvable paradox, but as a complex truth that transcends simple binary logic. 12. The paradox of choice, when more becomes less. As we step away from the logical labyrinths of paraconsistent reasoning, we find ourselves in a world where abundance breeds anxiety. Imagine a realm where having more options actually makes you less satisfied. How could the freedom to choose become a burden rather than a blessing? This is the essence of the paradox of choice, a concept that challenges our fundamental assumptions about decision-making and happiness. Consider the simple act of selecting a jar of jam at the supermarket. You approach the shelf, expecting to make a quick decision, only to find yourself confronted with an overwhelming array of flavors, brands, and sizes. As you stand there, paralyzed by indecision, you're experiencing firsthand the cognitive overload that lies at the heart of this paradox. Researchers have found that when presented with a larger assortment of jams, consumers are actually less likely to make a purchase. The increased variety leads to more deliberation and second-guessing, ultimately resulting in lower satisfaction with the final choice. But why does this happen? Our minds, evolved to navigate a world of scarcity, find themselves ill-equipped to handle the superabundance of modern life. Each decision we make requires mental energy, and as we face an ever-increasing number of choices throughout our day, we experience what psychologists call decision fatigue. This cognitive exhaustion diminishes our ability to make satisfying choices, leaving us feeling drained and unsure. Moreover, the specter of regret looms large in the face of numerous options. When we choose one item from among many, we are simultaneously not choosing all the others. This creates a nagging sense that we might have made the wrong decision, that another option could have been better. The joy of our selection becomes overshadowed by the fear of missed opportunities, a psychological burden that grows heavier with each additional choice we face. Think about the last time you scrolled through a streaming service, searching for the perfect movie to watch. As you browse through hundreds of titles, each one promising entertainment, you might find yourself spending more time choosing than actually watching. This is the paradox of choice in action, transforming what should be a pleasurable experience into a source of stress and indecision. The expectation of perfection plays a significant role in this paradox. When faced with a multitude of options, we often hold out for the ideal choice, convinced that with so many possibilities, the perfect selection must exist. But this pursuit of perfection can lead to paralysis, as we fear making anything less than the optimal decision. Ironically, this quest for the best often results in less satisfactory outcomes than if we had simply chosen a good enough option from a smaller selection. Psychologists have identified two distinct approaches to decision-making: maximizing and satisficing. Maximizers strive to make the best possible choice by exploring all available options. While this might seem like a prudent approach, it often leads to increased anxiety and regret. Satisficers, on the other hand, are content with a choice that meets their criteria, even if it's not necessarily the absolute best. This more relaxed approach to decision-making often results in greater satisfaction and less stress. The implications of the paradox of choice extend far beyond consumer behavior. Consider the realm of romantic relationships in the age of dating apps. With a seemingly endless array of potential partners at our fingertips, we might find ourselves constantly second-guessing our choices, always wondering if there's someone better just to swipe away. This abundance of options can lead to decreased satisfaction with relationships, as the grass always seems greener on the other side of the dating profile. In the professional world, the paradox of choice manifests in the overwhelming number of career paths available to modern workers. While having options is generally positive, the pressure to choose the right career can be paralyzing, leading to indecision and dissatisfaction. The fear of making the wrong choice can prevent individuals from fully committing to any path, resulting in a sense of stagnation and unfulfillment. So how do we navigate this paradox? How can we enjoy the benefits of choice without succumbing to its pitfalls? One approach is to practice decision simplification. By consciously limiting our options or establishing clear criteria for our choices, we can reduce the cognitive load of decision-making. This might mean creating a capsule wardrobe with fewer clothing items, or setting specific parameters for our job search. Another strategy is to adopt a satisficing mindset. Instead of striving for the perfect choice, we can learn to appreciate good enough decisions. This doesn't mean settling for mediocrity, but rather recognizing that the pursuit of perfection often comes at the cost of satisfaction and peace of mind. Practicing gratitude and acceptance can also help mitigate the negative effects of choice overload. By focusing on the positive aspects of our decisions and accepting that no choice is perfect, we can reduce feelings of regret and enhance our overall satisfaction. This mindset shift allows us to appreciate the abundance of options as a privilege rather than a burden. 13. The bootstrap paradox, information's Ouroboros. As we ponder the abundance of choices in our lives, let's consider a universe where even the concept of origin becomes uncertain. Picture receiving a gift from your future self, a gift that inspired your entire life's work. But if you created it because you received it, who really invented it? This mind-bending scenario introduces us to the bootstrap paradox, a concept that threatens to unravel our understanding of cause and effect. The bootstrap paradox, also known as the causal loop or ontological paradox, challenges our perception of time and causality. It emerges in scenarios where an object or piece of information travels back in time, only to become the catalyst for its own existence. Imagine a time traveler who journeys to the past, carrying a copy of a renowned novel. They present this book to a young, aspiring writer who, inspired by its brilliance, goes on to pen the very same work. The question arises, where did the story truly originate? This paradox creates a self-sustaining loop with no clear point of origin, a literary Ouroboros devouring its own tale. The book exists because it was written, but it was written because it already existed. This circular logic defies our traditional understanding of cause and effect, where we expect every effect to have a preceding cause. Consider the implications of such a paradox on our concept of creativity and innovation. In a universe where time travel is possible, can we ever be certain of the true origin of an idea? The bootstrap paradox suggests a reality where information and objects can exist in a state of perpetual creation and recreation, challenging our notions of authorship and originality. The paradox extends beyond the realm of literature and art. Imagine a scientist who receives advanced technological blueprints from the future. These blueprints enable them to create the very time machine that will eventually be used to send the plans back. The technology exists because it was invented, but it was invented because it already existed. This cyclic causality creates a closed, timelike curve, a path through space-time that loops back on itself. In the context of physics, the bootstrap paradox intersects with theories of closed time-like curves and the possibility of sending information backwards through time. These concepts, while theoretically possible within the framework of Einstein's general relativity, raise profound questions about the nature of time itself. If information can loop back on itself, does time flow in a single direction, or is it more akin to a vast, interconnected web? The paradox also challenges our understanding of free will and determinism. In a universe where events can be their own cause, how much agency do we truly possess? Are our actions predetermined by information from the future, or do we have the power to break these causal loops? Proposed resolutions to the bootstrap paradox offer intriguing possibilities. The concept of multiple timelines suggests that each instance of time travel creates a new branch of reality, preventing true paradoxes from occurring. In this view, the time traveler who brings the novel to the past creates a new timeline, distinct from their original one. Another perspective is offered by the Novikov self-consistency principle, which posits that any actions taken by a time traveler must be consistent with the established timeline. This principle suggests that paradoxes are impossible because the universe naturally prevents contradictory events from occurring. In the case of our novel, the principle would argue that the book was always meant to be delivered by the time traveler, creating a stable, if circular, chain of events. These resolutions, however, raise their own philosophical quandaries. If multiple timelines exist, what determines which reality we experience? And if the universe enforces self-consistency, does this imply a form of cosmic determinism? The bootstrap paradox invites us to reconsider our fundamental assumptions about reality. It suggests a universe where the concepts of before and after may be more fluid than we imagine, where information and objects can exist in a state of perpetual creation and recreation. This paradox challenges us to expand our thinking beyond linear causality and consider a reality where effect and cause dance in an eternal, impossible embrace. 14. The Sorites paradox, when categories crumble. From the fluidity of time, we now turn our gaze to the boundaries of meaning itself. Picture a world where even the simplest concepts, a heap of sand, a bald head, or a tall person, become elusive, slipping through our fingers like grains of sand. What happens when our categories crumble and the very foundations of language begin to dissolve? The Sorites paradox, also known as the paradox of the heap, presents a profound challenge to our understanding of categories and definitions. It exposes the inherent vagueness in many of our everyday concepts, revealing the difficulty of drawing precise boundaries in a world of continuous spectra. Imagine a heap of sand before you. Now remove a single grain. Is it still a heap? You remove another and another. At what precise point does it cease to be a heap? This seemingly innocuous question unravels the very nature of categorization. Attributed to the ancient Greek philosopher Eubulides of Miletus, the Sorites paradox extends far beyond mere piles of sand. Consider the concept of baldness. How many hairs must a person lose before they're considered bald? Or ponder the notion of tallness. At what exact height does someone transition from being of average stature to tall? These questions may seem trivial, but they harbor a paradox so profound it threatens to destabilize the scaffolding of human knowledge and decision-making. The heart of the Sorites paradox lies in the concept of vagueness. Our language is filled with terms that lack precise boundaries. Tall, rich, old, yet we use them confidently in everyday discourse. The paradox exposes the limitations of traditional logic, which typically operates on the assumption that categories are clearly defined and that every statement can be classified as either true or false. But in a world of continuous spectra, how can we maintain such rigid distinctions? Philosophers have grappled with this conundrum for centuries, proposing various approaches to resolve the paradox. One such approach is epistemicism, which posits that there is indeed a precise cut-off point between a heap and a non-heap, but this point is unknowable to us. This view preserves the law of excluded middle, suggesting that every statement is either true or false, while attributing vagueness to our lack of knowledge about the exact conditions that define the concept. Another intriguing resolution comes in the form of fuzzy logic. This approach rejects the binary nature of traditional logic, introducing degrees of truth. Instead of asking whether a collection of sand grains is or is not a heap, fuzzy logic allows us to assess the degree to which it is a heap. This nuanced perspective aligns more closely with our intuitive understanding of vague concepts, acknowledging that reality often exists in shades of gray rather than black and white. Supervaluationism offers yet another perspective. This theory suggests that while vague terms may not have precise boundaries, we can still reason about them consistently by considering all possible ways of making them precise. known as precisifications. A statement is considered true if it holds true under every precisification, false if it's false under every precisification, and otherwise indeterminate. This approach allows us to maintain logical consistency while acknowledging the inherent vagueness of certain concepts. The implications of the Sorites paradox extend far beyond philosophical discourse, touching various aspects of our lives and society. In legal contexts, for instance, vague terms like reasonable or negligent can lead to borderline cases where it's unclear how the law should be applied. Small incremental changes in circumstances can lead to vastly different legal interpretations with potentially life-altering consequences. In medicine, the paradox emerges in end-of-life care decisions, where terms like quality of life or terminal are often used. These concepts lack precise definitions, and small changes in a patient's condition might not clearly indicate a shift from one category to another. How do we make ethical decisions in such ambiguous territories? Even in the realm of artificial intelligence, the Sorites paradox poses significant challenges. AI systems often rely on binary classifications, but the paradox suggests that these systems may struggle with concepts that do not have clear boundaries. How can we design algorithms that can navigate the nuanced, fuzzy boundaries of human language and decision-making? As we grapple with the Sorites paradox, we're forced to confront the limitations of our categorical thinking. It challenges us to embrace a more nuanced understanding of reality, one that acknowledges the continuous nature of many phenomena we encounter. Perhaps the resolution lies not in finding a precise boundary, but in accepting that some concepts inherently resist clear-cut classification. 15. The unexpected examination, knowledge in flux. As we step away from the shifting sands of categorization, we encounter a new realm where even our most rational deductions can lead us astray. Picture a classroom where knowledge becomes a double-edged sword. The more the students know, the less they can predict. This is the essence of the unexpected examination paradox, a logical conundrum that challenges our understanding of knowledge, prediction, and the very nature of surprise. Imagine a teacher announcing to her class, "Next week, you will have a surprise examination on one of the 5 weekdays." At first glance, this seems like a straightforward statement. But as the students, being clever logicians, begin to reason through the implications, they find themselves trapped in a web of contradictions. Their logical journey begins at the end of the week. They argue that the exam cannot occur on Friday, for if it hadn't happened by Thursday evening, it would no longer be a surprise. This elimination process continues backward through the week. Thursday is ruled out because if Friday is impossible, it would be the last possible day, and thus not a surprise. The same reasoning eliminates Wednesday, Tuesday, and finally Monday. The students, following their impeccable logic, conclude that no examination is possible at all. Yet, when Wednesday arrives and the teacher distributes the exam papers, the students find themselves genuinely surprised. How can this be? Their reasoning seemed flawless, their logic impeccable. And yet, reality has defied their carefully constructed argument. This paradox illuminates the complex interplay between knowledge, belief, and time. It forces us to confront the limitations of our logical frameworks when applied to scenarios involving both predictability and uncertainty. The student's reasoning, while seemingly valid at each step, leads to a conclusion that contradicts reality. This contradiction challenges our assumptions about what it means to know something will or won't happen. Consider how this paradox might play out in real-world scenarios. In financial markets, investors constantly attempt to predict future trends based on available information. Yet, market-moving events often catch even the most astute analysts by surprise. Similarly, in military strategy, the element of surprise remains a powerful tactic despite extensive intelligence gathering and scenario planning. The unexpected examination paradox suggests that perfect prediction may be inherently impossible, even with seemingly complete information. But why does this paradox continue to perplex logicians and philosophers? Its persistence lies in its ability to expose the fragile nature of our epistemic certainty. It challenges us to reconsider what we mean when we claim to know something about the future. The paradox suggests that our knowledge is always in flux, subject to revision as new information becomes available or as time passes. Attempts to resolve this paradox have led to fascinating explorations in temporal and epistemic logic. Some philosophers argue that the paradox arises from a misunderstanding of the nature of knowledge and belief. They suggest that the student's error lies in assuming that their knowledge remains constant throughout the week. In reality, their knowledge state changes each day as the exam fails to materialize, altering the probabilities and their ability to predict. Others propose that the paradox reveals a fundamental limitation in our ability to reason about self-referential statements. The teacher's announcement creates a circular dependency between the student's knowledge and the occurrence of the exam. This circularity, they argue, makes it impossible to assign a definitive truth value to the statement, much like the famous liar's paradox. The unexpected examination paradox also intersects with deeper philosophical questions about free will and determinism. In a purely deterministic universe, could true surprises exist? If every event is the inevitable result of prior causes, how can anything be unexpected? Yet our subjective experience is filled with surprises and unforeseen events. This paradox invites us to contemplate the nature of surprise itself and its relationship to our limited knowledge and perception. Perhaps the resolution to this paradox lies not in finding a logical flaw or redefining our terms, but in embracing a more nuanced understanding of knowledge and prediction. It challenges us to recognize the dynamic nature of our beliefs and the inherent uncertainty in our predictions about the future. The paradox suggests that true knowledge often involves acknowledging the limits of what we can know with certainty. 16. The perfect crime when flawlessness falters. As we step away from the shifting sands of prediction and uncertainty, we find ourselves confronting a paradox that challenges our very notions of perfection and criminality. Imagine a crime so flawlessly executed that it leaves not a single trace of evidence, not a whisper of suspicion, not even the faintest ripple in the fabric of reality. This is the concept of the perfect crime, a notion that has captivated the minds of philosophers, legal scholars, and storytellers for generations. But as we unravel this idea, we encounter a web of contradictions that force us to question the very nature of crime itself. Consider the fundamental paradox at the heart of this concept. If a crime is truly perfect, leaving absolutely no evidence of its occurrence, can we even call it a crime at all? In the realm of law and justice, the absence of evidence often equates to the absence of a crime. Yet the idea of a perfect crime assumes a level of control and execution that may be unattainable in practice. It's a concept that exists in a liminal space between reality and imagination, challenging our understanding of what constitutes criminal activity. The pursuit of perfection in any domain is a formidable task, but in the realm of crime, it takes on an entirely new dimension. Every action leaves a trace. Every decision creates a ripple effect. And in our interconnected world, true isolation is increasingly rare. The concept of a perfect crime emphasizes the sheer complexity of achieving absolute flawlessness in any endeavor, let alone one shrouded in secrecy and moral ambiguity. As we delve deeper into this paradox, we must confront the philosophical implications of perfection itself. Is perfection an attainable goal, or is it an ideal that forever eludes our grasp? In the context of crime, this question takes on a darker hue. The pursuit of the perfect crime becomes a twisted mirror of humanity's eternal quest for excellence, revealing uncomfortable truths about our capacity for both innovation and destruction. Real-world examples serve to illustrate the elusive nature of the perfect crime. History is replete with cases that were initially deemed unsolvable, only to be cracked open years or even decades later by advancements in forensic technology. What was once considered the epitome of criminal perfection crumbles in the face of scientific progress. These cases remind us that our definition of perfect is inherently tied to the limitations of our current knowledge and capabilities. The march of technology plays a crucial role in this ongoing dance between criminal ingenuity and investigative prowess. As forensic techniques become more sophisticated, the bar for what constitutes a perfect crime rises ever higher. DNA analysis, digital forensics, and other cutting-edge technologies have transformed the landscape of criminal investigation. Even the most seemingly insignificant traces, a stray hair, a partial fingerprint, a fleeting digital footprint, can now unravel the most carefully constructed criminal schemes. Yet, as we contemplate the technological arms race between criminals and investigators, we must also grapple with the ethical dimensions of the perfect crime. The very pursuit of such an ideal raises profound questions about human nature and morality. What drives individuals to seek perfection in acts of wrongdoing? Is it a desire for intellectual challenge, a misguided quest for superiority, or something darker still? The concept of the perfect crime serves as a mirror, reflecting our societal values and the boundaries we place on human behavior. Moreover, the idea of a perfect crime challenges our understanding of justice itself. If a crime could truly be committed without leaving any trace or causing any detectable harm, would it still be considered a violation of ethical or legal norms? This thought experiment pushes us to examine the foundations of our justice system and the principles upon which it is built. It forces us to confront the possibility that our notions of crime and punishment may be more complex and nuanced than we often assume. As we navigate this labyrinth of paradoxes, we begin to see that the concept of the perfect crime is not merely a theoretical exercise, but a lens through which we can examine broader questions about knowledge, certainty, and the limits of human achievement. It challenges us to reconsider our assumptions about the nature of evidence, the role of technology in society, and the very essence of criminal behavior. 17. The Grandfather Paradox. Revisited, reality's recursive riddle. As we return to the Grandfather Paradox, our journey through the labyrinth of temporal conundrums has transformed our perspective. The gun in your hand, once a simple tool of destruction, now symbolizes the intricate web of causality that binds the fabric of reality. The paradox before us is no longer just a thought experiment, but a gateway to understanding the very nature of existence itself. Consider how our exploration of closed, timelike curves and bootstrap paradoxes has reshaped our view of time. The linear progression we once took for granted now appears as a complex tapestry, with threads of cause and effect intertwining in ways that challenge our most fundamental assumptions. The act of traveling back in time to confront your grandfather becomes not just a physical journey, but a traversal through the multi-dimensional landscape of possibility. In this new light, the paradox takes on a recursive quality. Each potential action or inaction creates a ripple effect through time, forming a self-referential loop that defies conventional logic. The question is no longer simply whether you can or cannot change the past, but how the very attempt to do so might be intricately woven into the causal structure of reality. Emerging theories in physics offer tantalizing new perspectives on this age-old puzzle. Post-selected quantum mechanics, for instance, suggests a universe where future events can influence the past, creating a framework where paradoxes might resolve themselves through complex quantum interactions. Imagine a reality where your decision to travel back in time is not just a choice made in the present, but an event that reverberates both forward and backward through time, shaping the very circumstances that led to your decision. The consistent histories approach provides another intriguing angle. It posits that our universe follows only those histories that are internally consistent, potentially eliminating paradoxical timelines from the realm of possibility. In this view, the act of attempting to change the past might itself be part of the consistent history that led to your existence. The gun in your hand becomes both the potential instrument of your grandfather's demise and the very reason for your birth, a cosmic Ouroboros of causality. These theories force us to grapple with profound philosophical questions. If our actions in the past are constrained by the need for consistency, do we truly possess free will, or are our choices merely the playing out of a predetermined script written by the immutable laws of physics? The grandfather paradox becomes a crucible for testing our concepts of determinism and agency. Contemplate the implications of the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics in this context. Each decision point might spawn new universes, creating an infinite branching structure of reality. In this framework, the paradox dissolves into a sea of possibilities. You may succeed in altering your timeline in one branch, while in another, your attempt fails, preserving the original sequence of events. But what does this mean for the concept of personal identity and responsibility? Are you still you if your actions spawn countless alternate versions of yourself? The exploration of these ideas extends far beyond the realm of theoretical physics. Real-world research into the nature of time and causality draws inspiration from these paradoxes. Scientists studying quantum entanglement and retrocausality are probing the boundaries of our understanding, seeking clues to the fundamental structure of reality. The grandfather paradox serves as a conceptual North Star, guiding inquiries into the nature of time itself. As we delve deeper into these mysteries, a profound realization emerges. The resolution to the grandfather paradox may require nothing less than a complete paradigm shift in our understanding of physics and philosophy. Our conventional notions of cause and effect, of past and future, of choice and consequence may be woefully inadequate to describe the true nature of reality. 18. Conclusion. As we emerge from this labyrinth of paradoxes, our minds have been stretched and reshaped, forever altered by the intricate dance of logic and impossibility. The boundaries we once held as immutable have blurred, revealing a reality far more complex and wondrous than we dared imagine. These paradoxes are not mere intellectual puzzles to be solved and discarded, but gateways to profound understanding, challenging us to question the very foundations of our knowledge. Consider the words of Albert Einstein. The most beautiful experience we can have is the mysterious. It is the fundamental emotion which stands at the cradle of true art and true science. In grappling with these paradoxes, we have embraced that mystery, pushing the limits of human comprehension. Our journey through quantum mechanics, the nature of time, and the fabric of existence itself has led us to the precipice of new discoveries. As you drift into the realm between wakefulness and dreams, let these paradoxes swirl in your consciousness. In this liminal space, where the rigid structures of logic bend and time loses its linear march, you might glimpse something profound about the nature of reality. For it is in these moments of cognitive flexibility that we often find our greatest insights, our minds free to explore the vast possibilities that paradoxes reveal.